This is the Sons of UCF podcast, your place for UCF sports talk year-round. Now, here is Adam and Mike.
We are back, the Sons of UCF. This is the 124th installment of said Sons of UCF. I'm one of those sons. My name is Adam, and as always, I have my good friend and yours, Mr. UCF Mike, with me. Mike, greetings. Happy spring football season, my friend.
Field activities are back again. It feels good to see the guys back out there. Practice has started again today. It's no longer the off season. Well, I guess it's part of the off season, but it feels like we're back in stride now.
We are back in stride. We got a lot of content today, Mike. It's been a while since we had content. We had a lot of our intrepid reporters, including our own Trace Trelko, out there shooting some highlight videos, if you will, of the 20 minutes of practice. We saw Gus Malzahn in a questionable outfit. We'll get to all of that, so you don't want to miss that. But Mike, here's what we got on tap for the show. As always, we'll end on Cow of the Week. You're going to want to make sure that you are here to listen into that. We've got an update on the UCF Greatest Plays Tournament Bracket Challenge. Mike was in the lab hard coming up with 64 of the greatest UCF plays. So we'll go through a little bit about what that means, how to find it, how to play, and we'll preview some first-round matchups. If spring ball's here, Mike, that means coaches and players met the media for the first time, we dusted off an old friend to help us out this show, so stay tuned for that. And then we'll go through headlines, news, and notes. But we also have a very, very good conversation with our one of our favorite players of all time, Mr. Otis Anderson, joins us on the show as well. So action-packed show, Mike. If you're listening out there, you don't want to go anywhere. And if all of that doesn't inspire you to give us a 5-star rating for this particular podcast, I don't know what more we can do, Mike. I feel like we're doing it all.
You guys need to slow down on the ratings. I've been begging for the ratings for the last couple of weeks. Everybody went and gave us ratings this week. So believe that if you want. So we did have a little surge in the ratings. So it's been picking up, but I think we could do a little bit better. So if you still haven't done it, go ahead. It takes you a half a second to just click on the 5 stars. If you want to leave a review like some of you have, that'd be great too.
Make sure you follow us on social media too, Sons of UCF, or wherever you can search for Sons of UCF, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and don't forget about our YouTube page. And you can also follow our good buddy Mike at UCF Mike 1. You're going to want to do that. We'll explain later on why that is, Mike. But all right, here we go. Today, March 15th, 2021, the Gus Malzahn era officially began. Spring practice kicked off today, Mike. Obviously, we didn't get a ton of details on what took place, but what did you make of the videos you saw and some of the pictures you saw and some of the things that we were able to see from the UCF social media teams?
Well, let's break down that one throw we saw Dylan make to the sideline. That looked like a pretty solid throw. It was right on line. It's just a whole different vibe, it felt like, in practice. There's no more music pumping through the stereo. Coach is connected to a microphone that he can communicate with the whole team. Apparently there's a drone flying around, videotaping everything from over the head. So a little different feeling. I think they said it's a little more slowed down. He wants to do a lot more teaching, at least in this first week. And then he's going to put the music back on later and get the guys a little more energy. But right now he's trying to get his system installed. So he's doing it his way. And everybody seems to have taken to it pretty well so far.
Well, don't discount, Mike. I think we saw a punt formation. I think Andrew Osteen got off a punt in one of the videos I saw as well. So it's good to see special teams being worked on. I didn't see anybody returning that punt, but I guess we'll worry about that stuff later. We saw we saw Quadri make a throw. I saw Quadri having a little outside throw there. Looked like he threw a little bit behind the receiver, Mike. We might want to watch that. I think we saw Mikey Keene with a throw too. It was hard to make out who was actually behind that particular throw, but. And then you saw some work on the lines. You saw some trash cans out there, and you saw some guys doing some work there. You saw Gus kind of walking around. So it did look like kind of a new energy. Dylan Gabriel, he went suns out, guns out. He had the sleeves pulled up a little bit. Looks like he's got maybe he's growing the hair out a little bit as well, Mike. A little bit of a thin beard line. It looks like we're starting to see a more mature Dylan Gabriel, both just in the way he looks, but Mike, maybe even hopefully on the field as well.
And that's going to be the key to this whole season and this whole process, transferring from Heupel to Malzahn, is how Dylan Gabriel accepts the whole change. And I mean, what he does with his hair, that's up to him. I can dig it. It's a quarantine time, so everybody seems to be growing their hair out, getting less haircuts. So that's cool. But just how he's going to adjust to Malzahn's system is going to be the key to this whole thing, and how this offense is going to function. And if the offense goes, then the whole team starts going after that.
Yeah, it looks like we didn't see much of the defense either. We didn't see much of that play. I saw the UCF highlight video that came out after the media left, had a few more plays on there. You saw a couple of one-on-one balls down the field where some guys were battling for some catches. You saw Amari Johnson make a catch on Justin Hodges, and then you saw another catch. I wasn't sure. I can't really see the receiver, but it looks like it was on Corey Thornton. So you definitely saw some more matchups there. So it's good to see the guys get back out there. And Mike, here's the drill for spring practice. So for those who are asking, here's what we know so far. The media looks like we'll get the 20-minute access back. It's been obviously postponed for last year based on COVID stuff, so we'll be coming back. So we'll see. We'll see how that works out. The practice schedules looks like, Mike, it's every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. All Saturday practices appear to be happening inside the bounce house. I know at least 1 to 2 of those will probably be a scrimmage, Mike. I think I'm hearing that on the 27th, potentially a scrimmage will take place. And all that leads up to the spring game, which is April 10th, which is a Saturday. Time still not announced yet. Players will be made available via Zoom still, so still no person-to-person interviews, but there will be some players. And it looks like Gus and any of the coordinators will be the ones who are able to sort of speak to you. So those are the particulars around sort of what's happening. And Mike, you said it best. I mean, obviously the name of the game right now, I think, for Malzahn is just set the foundation, set the baseline. Set up what the team's going to be about, how practices are going to run, and hopefully get some basic install stuff in. But certainly, I'm sure it's good for some of these guys to get back out in the field.
Yeah, some of these guys haven't been out there since. Well, none of them have been out there since the last game and the Boca Bowl where we were at, and that had to leave a bad taste in everybody's mouth. I know it left a bad one in mine. So it's got to be good to get out there, put the pads back on, run around, see your boys again. I mean, they've been training together in the weight room, but it's not the same as getting back out on the grass, running some football plays. You hear the whistles going. You got Malzahn on the speaker. What was he saying? Session one alert, or whatever it was. So that's got to be cool for them. It's something new. It's fresh. So I'm sure everybody in the locker room is excited.
Yeah, and by and large, it looked like everybody it's tough to see this on 20 seconds of video, but it seemed like everybody had a positive attitude. It seemed like energy was high. And we'll talk about the interviews that took place afterwards and some of the notables and quotables from there. But Malzahn seemed pumped up, Mike. The players seemed pretty excited to be out there. It seemed like, and I don't know how it is. I think anytime you get back out in the field after being off for a long time, I think there's always a bit of an excitement. But I think you're right. I feel like just a little bit of extra oomph for this particular spring practice.
Yeah, everybody's got to knock the rust off. And when you have a new coaching staff, they all said how everybody has a clean slate. So all these guys have a chance to be a starter now. So they all have to come out and impress their own coaches, their position coaches, and Malzahn himself. Everything's on tape. I mentioned the drone that's flying around. So they're going to catch you if you are goofing off in practice or you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. That everything's going to be recorded. These guys are there to earn a job, and may the best man win.
A couple other news and notes from the football world here, Mike. UCF on Monday also received a commitment, the first quarterback commitment of the Gus Malzahn era. It is a kid by the name of Thomas Castellanos. He is coming to us from South Georgia. He is a 3-star, 5.7 rated quarterback. Not the tallest or biggest guy in the world, 5'11", 190. I guess there's some talk in the recruiting circles that this guy was offered as an athlete at other places, but that he potentially sees himself playing quarterback, and that Gus shares that as well. So he's announced his verbal commitment, Mike, to UCF class of 2022. So the first QB for the Gus Malzahn era, recruit-wise at least, is on the board.
Well, the last few quarterbacks we've had have not been big prototypical style quarterbacks, no 6'4" guys. Dylan's a shorter guy. Mackenzie's a shorter guy. And they've been some of the best we've ever had. This kid was being recruited at Florida State to be a running back. So we know he can run and he can move. One of our best quarterbacks ever was also recruited at other places to not play quarterback. That's Blake Bortles. People wanted him to be a tight end. And he chose UCF because he got the chance to become a quarterback. Now this kid's choosing us because he can play quarterback for us. So everything looks good. The star ratings are there. He doesn't quite have that 4th star yet. I think if he was going to Auburn, he may have been bumped up to that 4th star since he's coming to UCF. Maybe they'll keep him at a 3. But if you look at his position rankings, what is he, like the number 11 quarterback in the state of Georgia?
Yep.
And moving up on those rankings too. So he's still got another year to play of high school football. It seems like a very solid pickup from Gus Malzahn.
And who knows if these things stick, right? I mean, this is recruiting. He's recruiting to announcing today. He's verbally committing, but there's a whole another year to land on that. Who knows what will happen in between here and there, Mike? But it's good to see that Gus is able to come in and quickly attract quarterback talent. And find a guy really right off the board. I don't know that Heupel was really good at getting those guys early on. It seems like we were always in kind of a late contest. And we'll see what we have in Parker Navarro and Mikey Keene. Those seem like 2 really good quarterbacks as well that are kind of waiting right now behind Dylan Gabriel. So you throw in another young guy in Castellanos, and you'll see what the quarterback room looks like. And there's probably still room to add, one more. And we'll see if Gus decides to continue to load up on quarterbacks. Again, obviously, none of these offers are really official until dudes are stepping on campus. But that's 2 commits under the Malzahn era, both 3 stars, both 5.7 ratings. Maldonado was the offensive tackle we talked about last week, Mike. So far 2 on the board for Gus. We know 1 Florida guy, now 1 Georgia guy. So Gus talked about owning that little 6-hour radius from Orlando. So far, he's living up to that commitment.
And you see the style that he's going after. This kid's a dual threat quarterback. That seems to be what Gus likes to do. He likes to have a guy that can run Cam Newton style, maybe put a lot of pressure on the defense both ways with his arms and his legs. And that's not to say that he's going to force Dylan Gabriel to run. He's going to adjust his offense according to the guys he has. But now when this recruiting cycle goes through, you're going to start seeing him bring in the type of players that he wants at each position and how he wants to position the defense and the offense. So he's going to want a dual threat quarterback. I wouldn't be surprised if the next quarterback we bring in will also be a dual threat.
Well, UCF wasn't done on that front recruiting-wise, Mike. Kind of out of nowhere, some of these things obviously are rumored and you never really know, but UCF also picked up a transfer portal commitment from one-time former Northwestern running back by the name of Isaiah Bowser. He is going to be coming to UCF. He rushed for 1,300 yards and 7 touchdowns while he was with the Wildcats. He's a 3-star recruit, Mike, out of high school. So we'll see what he ends up being, Mike. Not a name that I thought of, but dude is pretty stout, 6 foot 2 hundo. And a lot of people are saying he'll kind of be like an H-back in Gus Malzahn's system. He's described as a churner who can get extra yards after contact. I know we've been talking a lot about sort of needing that big bruising back for that short down or a short yardage situation, goal line situation. Again, one way he's described is he runs with power, has excellent lower body strength. Maybe Gus gets his goal line, his short yards back here in one Isaiah Bowser.
Again, another hint towards how Malzahn likes to run his offense. He wants to do a power running game, and this is the kid that can come in and do it. A powerful running back that can get those tough yards on 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. You give him the ball and blast him right through the line. No longer are we handing the ball to Adrian Killens or OJ Anderson just with 1 yard to go. Now we got a big guy, line him up and get that extra yard with no problem.
And that running back room is getting a little crowded, right? Obviously, we knew we had Bentavious Thompson. We knew we had sort of the younger guys, Damaris Good, Johnny Richardson. We knew we had the recruit Anthony Williams. And now we've added Mark Anthony Richards, and now we've added Isaiah Bowser. So definitely added some more horses to that running back room. And it'll be interesting to see how those guys split carries and what that'll look like. I think right now, if you had to handicap it, you would think that Bentavious Thompson and Mark Anthony Richards would probably battle for RB1. Maybe Bowser gets some of that short yard stuff, and Richardson and Good maybe for that 3rd down back spot. So the running back room where, obviously we lost two big guys last year and Otis and McCray. Maybe we reloaded pretty well there, Mike. I guess we'll see how it turns out. But so far the additions seem pretty good on paper.
There's always a possibility one of these guys may move to a different position. There was talk maybe even of this Bowser kid coming in playing safety. So nothing is set in stone yet. And like we said, today was the first day of spring practice, so everybody's got a chance to impress the coaches. They haven't seen any of these other kids yet. Guys like Richardson and Good and guys that have been on the roster now under Heupel, they have their chance now to impress Malzahn and make him make a tough decision with the guys that he's bringing in or them. Who's going to get the carries?
Sticking with football for a second, we'll get there. We'll get back there in a moment. But one of the news items that was sort of churning late last week, Mike, was Terry Mohajir, and his name had surfaced for the open athletic director spot at Kansas. When I say surfaced, I mean media people were saying that maybe there's smoke there, there's connections there. So Terry was interviewed by the Orlando Sentinel, Matt Michelle, and he was kind of flat out asked, and his response essentially was, "It's a compliment when you're mentioned." But he said he's quote unquote been knighted and he's excited to be here, and he's getting settled at UCF. So it sounds like that was a soft way of basically saying I'm not going to Kansas, whether or not he was a candidate or not, whether or not he interviewed or not. I guess who knows, but it sounds like at least if anyone was concerned that we would be getting another change in the leadership here, looks like Mohajir is indeed going to be staying.
Sounds like they haven't offered him enough money, at least not yet. And have they hired anybody yet, Kansas? Because until they do, then I still don't know if we should rest easy. I've heard plenty of guys say they're not going somewhere and then end up going there. So has Kansas hired anybody yet? Do we know that?
I do not believe they have officially made a hire.
All right. So once that happens, then I'll relax a little bit. Right now, I'll take him for his word, but I've known the guy for 10 minutes. I don't know what his word is worth yet.
All
so
right.
You want to believe him? Go ahead. Take your chances believing him, but I'll wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not believing him, but yeah, I mean, I think at this point, if Knight fans have learned anything, it's probably that you never know what's going to happen until something happens, Mike. One thing he was also asked about that I thought was really interesting in that conversation with Matt Michelle, he was asked about the status of scheduling future football games, Mike, and I will read his first couple of sentences of his answer here. He said, quote, "We are in a really tough situation right now because we don't have a lot of games. I've prided myself in being pretty strategic in our scheduling, but it's going to be challenging to really strategically set up our schedule based on philosophies because we just don't have the games. We've got to get the games." And so you can read that as a bit of a shot across the bow at former athletic director Danny White. But obviously, Mohajir is, he's pretty blunt here. He's concerned about getting games in the future, Mike. I thought that was probably the most interesting thing that he said in that conversation with Matt Michelle.
He's talked about getting a top 10 team on the schedule. And somebody posted today, I'm not sure, I forget where I saw it, maybe it was on Twitter, a list of teams that are available to play in 2023. And on that list are Alabama, Auburn, and Notre Dame. And if he really wants a top 10 team, all three of those teams are right around the top 10 every year. Give those guys a call. And if it means we don't get a home game, then we don't get a home game. But I'd be okay playing a one-off game with Alabama or Notre Dame, even if it's just a road game, and then see what happens. That's the game we've been talking about getting. And that's what these guys, the new philosophy is, we'll play anybody anywhere. So let's do it. And Notre Dame's a team we can beat year in and year out. I know they're always ranked highly and they always have a pretty good record, but they've never impressed me that much. We see what happens to them every year in the playoffs, or when they play really tough teams, they get beat up pretty good. So I'd love a game with Notre Dame. And that's a team maybe you can schedule a neutral site game with, because they're a team that likes to schedule these games in places where they have a fan base that is a national fan base. They play teams all over the country. They play them in like baseball stadiums, places like that. Maybe we can schedule a neutral site game with Notre Dame in Miami or something, and give them a game in Miami, which I'm sure they'd take too.
Well, the back end of that quote is also just as interesting, Mike. He says, "I think people need to be patient. We're going to do some things we wouldn't have done in normal years. You're going to see some teams that you're going to scratch your head. Why are we playing them? I've heard who our fan base wants to see, who our alumni wants to see, and who I want to see or our head coach wants to see is probably not going to coincide with what is available. So I don't know what to read into that, Mike. Is he saying that, hey, we know you guys want the big boys, but we can't get them? Is he saying, hey, we may be stuck with, the UConns and the South Carolina States of the world? It's hard to read into what he's saying there, Mike, but you may see some things you haven't seen in normal years and scratch your head and ask, why are we playing them? So I don't know if it sounds like anything is imminent, but, we heard when he got hired that Mohajir is not afraid to kind of be blunt in his assessment. Like, this seems like he's being pretty transparent about this is going to be interesting as we think about scheduling coming forward.
Maybe he's just trying to lower expectations of the UCF fans. I saw, didn't UConn get a home and home with Ole Miss?
They did.
Did I have that right?
Yeah.
And I mean, UConn's not even in the conference right now, and they're able to get one of those deals. I mean, we've known the deal here for a long time. Teams don't want to play us when we're good. They don't want to play us. The games we've had scheduled with the top tier teams, we had scheduled a long time ago, and teams like Florida haven't scheduled us in 12 years, 15 years. Florida State hasn't played us in 30 years, basically. Miami we had a deal with over 10 years ago. They don't want to play us anymore. So it's hard for us to get those games. There's no reason for them to play us because all they would do is help us out. If we beat them, then it helps us. And in their eyes, if they beat us, it does them no good. So I don't know where he's going to go. Maybe now he'll at least get rid of the FCS games, and we won't be seeing games against FAMU and Bethune-Cookman anymore. But maybe we'll have to fill those in with more FAU, FIUs, Georgia State type teams. And until he can get one of these big guys to agree to a game, then that's what we're going to have to settle for.
All right, let's talk about people who are playing and a schedule that we do have, Mike. So breaking on Monday evening, a little before you and I hit record, it appears that the UCF Lady Knights, the women's basketball program, will indeed be going dancing, Mike. It was announced that UCF is a 10 seed. They will match up against number 7 Northwestern. That game will happen on Monday, March 22nd, 4 p.m. on ESPNU. It'll take place in San Antonio, Mike. So the Lady Knights were on the bubble. Obviously, a tough loss in the AAC championship game to the Cows, but they end up getting in there, and it's good to have somebody in the postseason like and the women's team certainly has been by far the most consistent team we've had in a while here, at least on the non-football side. So good to see them heading to a postseason.
A 10 seed is a respectable seed. That's good. You pull that one off, who you get? Most likely the 2 seed, right? But
yep, yeah.
Good for the ladies. They had a very good season, very good record. They were in the championship game for the conference. They didn't get to beat the Cows, but they did beat them the week before. They're competitive with them, and let's see what happens here. Maybe we can get a win. Have we ever had a win in the women's tournament? I don't think so.
I don't believe so. I do not believe so.
I don't know. I'll be honest. I don't know. But it'd be nice if we haven't, and to get the first one ever. We just got our first win in the men's tournament just a couple years ago, and now we can get one for the women. That'd be great.
Well, speaking of the men's, Mike, their season came to an end after a valiant effort in the second round of the AAC men's champion or conference tournament. Memphis, they got off into a pretty big hole, and they battled back, Mike. They fought like hell, and they were in that game for a while. They even have potential to take leads and extend leads. It just did not end up happening. They ended up falling short in that tournament, Mike, and they obviously were not selected to the field for the NCAA tournament. Also not selected to the NIT tournament. So it appears that the men's season, Mike, has come to an end. How will you remember this 2021 UCF men's basketball season?
For me, it was a little disappointing, especially after the start we got off to when we beat Auburn to start the year, and then the win against Florida State at Florida State, where not too many teams go in and win, especially outside the ACC. And we looked really good that night. I thought for sure we were set up for a very, very good season, maybe even getting into the tournament. And then things started falling apart. I know a lot of it had to do with the COVID and stoppage of play. We didn't play a game for a while. And we lost a lot of games that we could have won and we should have won. twice against Wichita State, which ended up being the number one team in the conference in the regular season. We lost both of those games. I thought we should have won. There was a 1-point game, I think, against Cincinnati that we lost. There was the first game we played against the Cows. I believe we had a double-digit lead in and let that one slip away. There's some winnable games in there that we let through our fingers this year, where I know we're a young team, and hopefully these guys learn from those games and learn how to win them. We saw some progress at the end of the year. We finished the year a little stronger, but the schedule was a lot weaker in the second half of this season. Playing against teams like Temple and Tulane, those are games we should be winning anyway. East Carolina games. So I would like to see them pick up. I would like to see them win a game or two more against one of the top teams, maybe a Memphis win or a Wichita win. But overall, it's a young team, and they showed some promise. You got young guys. Isaiah Adams looks very good. Like, he's going to have a future here. And as long as they grow for next year, then I'll be okay with it. But next year is a year they got to take a big step next year, or there may have to be some changes around the basketball program.
Well, I mean, it's almost a tale of two seasons, right? If you look at where they sat, I mean, we got basically our doors blown off at Memphis on that first night almost a month ago in February. Then we turned around and played them again. They blew our doors off again. Then we went and we played a tough Tulsa team. We beat them on the road. We lost a 1-point game at Wichita. So if you look at that Tulsa game, right? So we win one, lose one by a point. We beat Tulane, lose another one to Cincinnati by a point. And then we go on and win our next 5 in a row, Mike. So really in that stretch, 7-2, I think I just said, and both those losses were by 1 point. So from February 6th on, I mean, that's a 7-2 basketball squad, and with 2 losses being by a total combined of 2 points, which, obviously doesn't necessarily mean that we could have or should have won those games, but you're there to win the game. It's there for the taking. And obviously it all kind of came apart, playing Memphis down the end. Now, yes, the schedule towards the end was a little bit weaker. We blew the doors off the Cows. We had a really close game against Tulsa, and obviously two big wins against ECU. So they were definitely hitting their stride. But that first half of the season, I mean, we started 11-2. That brutal stretch, Mike, where we lose 5 in a row right after Christmas to Houston, the Cows, to Temple, to Houston again, and then to SMU. I mean, that was just a brutal stretch. Then we win against ECU and come back and lose 3 in a row to Wichita, twice to Memphis. I mean, that stretch there really between Christmas, the day after Christmas, and February 3rd sort of doomed us in. It was almost a tale of two seasons that way, but you definitely saw some flashes at a team finishes 11-12 overall, 6-3 at home, but just 8-10 in the conference, Mike, and that's just not going to be good enough. We can't lose double-digit games in the conference and expect to be any sort of competitive for anything postseason related.
No, and one of our best players, maybe our best player during that winning streak here at the end, was Darius Perry, and he's going to be gone now. So now we're going to have to settle up the point guard position. I know we had a lot of problems with the injuries. Tony Johnson early in the year went out, and that was a crushing blow for us. But we've got to be able to overcome things like that. Everybody has injuries, especially in a year like this. Everybody has guys that test positive for COVID. We went through it. We just got to be a deeper basketball team. Hopefully these young guys step up and we bring in a couple new guys going into next year. It looks like we do have some big recruits coming in, so maybe things are looking up. But I was still hoping for a little more. The basketball program, I don't know what it is, man. We take one step forward, we take 2 steps back. Seems like we've been doing that dance for the last 10 years now. Right when you think things are looking up, then we go backwards a little bit. We haven't been consistent at all. We can't put back-to-back years in the tournament. The last time we did that was 2004 and 2005. Can we be a consistent tournament team? I mean, we're in a pretty good conference. We'd have to be in the top 2-3 of this conference, which I think we can be. We could be right up there with Memphis and Houston and be a contender to be in the dance at least every other year, every few years. Seems like we go too long without getting in that thing.
I mean, you got to be encouraged by Isaiah Adams and C.J. Walker, who seem to really find it down the stretch. You mentioned Darius Perry, Mike. I don't know where we would have been without him this year. You and I had some fun at his expense, and the fact that he seems to be a chucker. There's not a shot he doesn't like, but you gotta give the kid props, man. He made some really big shots. He made some tough shots. There were stretches where he was our only offense for a period of time, and losing him. Tony Johnson played a total of less than 20 minutes this season because of his injury. So there's kind of two factions now. You just kind of mentioned one on the basketball program. There's one faction that says, hey, you know what, 11 and 12, young team, building for the future. We got some recruits coming in. Obviously we're still kind of on the sort of upswing after we lose, Aubrey and BJ and Taco and Chad Brown, and this is kind of the next wave, and we're starting to see it come through. And then there's that side that says, you know what, Dawkins just hasn't, been consistent enough. We can't seem to get over the hump. Just like you said, there's something missing. We don't quite ever really get to the point where I think we all think we are going to be. So obviously that brings up the annual question of Johnny Dawkins, your UCF men's head basketball coach. Do you think he should remain in that role, or do you think it's time for us to look elsewhere?
I like Johnny. I do like him. I think the team plays hard for him. And I'm not going to say get rid of him now. I'm going to give him next year. But next year already, that's 3 years removed from the last tournament team. You should have a team reloaded by then. Mm-hmm. In basketball, you can get one or two guys come in and make a huge difference in your team. And there's only 5 guys on the court at once. You see the effect that a superstar has in basketball. Get a couple of those guys, 1 or 2 of those guys, and it's a completely different season. I don't know, man. I would like more consistency. I feel like we hear this every few years. Oh, the team is looking good. It's promising. The team is young. Well, I mean, let's get it going already. I hate not making the big dance. In a year like this, look at all the big teams that are not in the tournament, right? Am I right?
Yeah.
Duke, Kentucky, all these teams are not even in the tournament, and we're still not even considered to be in the tournament. If we had a respectable year in the conference, a good season, we could be one of these teams to get in this year, and not even a thought of putting us in at 500 in the AAC.
Well, we'll see where Mohajir goes with this, right? Because we don't really know. He's more of a football guy. Obviously, that's, I think, the sport he played. He didn't have a great track record. I mean, Arkansas State, where he was at, I wouldn't say they're necessarily the world beaters from a basketball perspective. Looking through the record quickly, they have been pretty mediocre, right around 500 every year so far. A couple of seasons under 500. Will Terry have any? So actually, they've been really bad. Wow. Will Terry have any sort of inclination to make a move? So we'll see what that looks like. I don't, off the top of my head, I don't know that we know what Johnny Dawkins' contract is, because there was all that Vanderbilt stuff, and I think we extended him. I don't know to what. He seems like a really solid coach, Mike, but something's missing. I don't know what it is. I'm not saying him leaving is going to be the answer, but something's not working right. And you're right. If we're going to be able to gain some of this momentum from a football standpoint, I know basketball is a different sport, but there's a ton of athletes in Florida that can play basketball. And so you got to think at some point we can capitalize this and put a team together. Seems like we have the horses. Yes, we've had some injury issues. Yes, there was a COVID sort of crisis this year. But I do think we're at the precipice now where if we're not able to keep, sustaining consistency, then it may be time to either start this thing over again or figure out if you need sort of a new voice in the program. And that's with all due respect to Johnny, but it feels like we've been on this train for too long where, we're moving forward and then we have a roadblock and we can't quite seem to get over it. Maybe that's not fair to Johnny, but it seems like we're kind of heading to a cliff here, and you want to see, can we save ourselves? And right now, all the evidence suggests that we're not the kind of program that's able to do that, at least consistently. And if that means that falls on Johnny, I guess we'll see if Mohajir is willing to make that kind of decision.
It's just frustrating for me because every year I see the brackets and I see schools like St. Bonaventure and Iona and Gonzaga and these schools. How big are these schools? We got to be able to compete against these guys. And if we played any one of those teams, they'd probably kick the crap out of us. Right? So there's no excuse for it anymore. We're a big-time program. We call ourselves a big-time program. We should act that way. We should be competing in this conference in the top 3 spots every single year. We should be right up there with Houston and Memphis. I don't see a reason why not. Is it because we don't get enough support? We don't bring up enough money for the basketball program in order to get guys like this? I mean, I don't know what the answer is.
Well, to be fair, college basketball is probably the sport that it's okay to be a group of 5 school, because those schools, Iona and Bonaventure and, whatever, Samford and Campbell and Mercer and whatever, you name those schools, they have automatic bid opportunities. So you're right. I mean, why are these schools in? Well, they're in because they won their conference tournament. This is one where if UCF was in the Sun Belt, would they win the conference every year? Would we be perennial tournament teams? If Iona was in the AAC, where would they be? So this is kind of the converse of the football stuff, where being in a smaller conference basketball-wise actually probably has a bit of an advantage, because you may have an opportunity to get into a tournament where, being the 4th best team in the AAC, unfortunately, is not gonna get you there, right? I think the AAC only got in 2 teams, Mike? Houston and Wichita. Memphis, I think, went to NIT, so I think they only got in 2 teams, if I have that right.
So, I mean, I know the answer because of money and TV contracts and stuff, but would we have been better off just going independent in football and scheduling our own guys, right? Playing against Alabama and all, and then putting our basketball team back in the A-Sun and just dominating that conference and being in the tournament every single year for basketball too?
Man, I mean, the reality is the AAC TV revenue is not great, but it's better than 0. So what kind of TV revenue could we have gotten, right? Notre Dame can pull that crap off because they are able to have that huge contract with NBC. That's a great question. Maybe I guess would be my answer, but I think the TV revenue, having it guaranteed, is probably a little bit better. And then you got to figure out what to do with all the other sports, the Olympic sports, baseball, softball, volleyballs, all that stuff. So there may be some advantage to that, but it's probably, it's interesting actually, because then you think about, could you just break into a new conference? I don't know. I mean, I think it's probably better to be in a conference, Mike, but I guess it'd be interesting to look back and if you kind of reran it and wonder where UCF could be without, but it's probably better to be in a conference, in my opinion.
Yeah, I get it, but I mean, what is the other draw? The bowl tie-ins? I mean, the bowl tie-ins for our conference suck, let's be honest. There's maybe one good bowl. You have to be not only the best team in our conference, you have to be the best team of all the group of 5 to get into a New Year's Six. Other than that, where are we going? To the Gasparilla Bowl and the Boca Bowl? And, if you're a team from up north, you go to the Fenway Bowl or the Pinstripe Bowl. The bowl thing is not a draw for us. If we could schedule our own schedule, if we could actually do that and get big-time teams to come, that'd be the problem, is nobody'd want to come to play us at home. Maybe we'd have to play a 12-game road schedule against Notre Dame, Alabama, Florida, and all these schools, and be in the A-Sun for basketball and be in the tournament area. That'd be fun.
Well, don't you worry, Mike, because your good friend Mike Oresco is all over it. In fact, he was quoted this weekend as saying he's bullish on our prospects as a conference, but then he adds, "We are at a crossroads. We have to get out of the group of 5. We don't belong there." So Mike Oresco of just shouting what everyone's known for God knows how many years. We have to get out of the group of 5. So don't you worry, Mike. I'm sure Mike Oresco has got a foolproof plan that will be widely accepted by everybody, because he just seems to do everything so correct.
He's talking about getting out of the group of 5. Like, there's a way out. Like, where are we going to go? He already tried putting us in the so-called P6. He tried that route. That didn't work. Nobody really bought into that. So now he's just going to say we're not like the other ones. We're somewhere in the middle. We're like a 4A baseball team. You're better than AAA, all the AAA teams, but you're not quite in the major leagues. That's where this conference seems to be. And I mean, he's been fighting for respect for the last few years. Nobody's giving it to us. What's he going to do to change things up? Is he going to expand the conference and invite and get teams like Boise State in here and make it clear that we are above the other conferences like the Sun Belt and Conference USA? So he's going to have to do something if that's what he's talking about. I don't know who he brings in. If he could somehow talk BYU to joining and Boise State, then you're talking about something. Then for sure, we're right up there with the Big 12 and the Pac 12 and those conferences.
Well, I just think it's fantastic that Mike Oresco, we got to get out of the group of five. In other news, Mike, water is wet. So it's good to have Mike Oresco realizing where things are. But so that's a quick little rundown of the news and notes. Baseball with a sweep over UNF, so looking to see them back on track. We'll keep an eye on how their season unfolds as well, Mike. But people were in front of microphones today, and it got us all nostalgic around here at the Sons of UCF. So coming up after this, we're going to bring back one of our old friends. Don't you go anywhere. We're right back.
Wait, what did he say?
All right, it is back, Mike. I found this contraption buried under some stuff here in my closet near the recording desk that I'm at. And I dusted it off a little bit, and I did that old thing like you do when you have like an old computer or Nintendo. You just hit the sides of the thing, and you hit the top, and you hope it works. And it fired back up, Mike, but it fired up with a twist. So this used to be known as the Josh Heupel translator. Unfortunately, or fortunately, it's undergone a rejuvenation, Mike, and it's now simply just the UCF translator. And there's no better time to break out this translator than today. So if you're not familiar with how this works, obviously a lot of folks around UCF will meet the media. They'll ask a lot of really good questions, a lot of tough questions sometimes, and often we don't get a lot of answers that we are looking for. So Mike and I have found the translator, and what we do is we read the question, and then we tell you by the power of the translator what they really meant to say. You'll hear this noise, and that means that the sound has been translated, Mike. It's pretty simple. I'll let you go first. What's the quote you have, or the question you have, and the answer, and then I'll translate it for you.
All right, Gus Malzahn today, his first spring practice. Somebody asked him, with this being your first spring practice at UCF, how familiar are you with the roster, and how is it shaping up? And he responded by saying, I'm somewhat familiar. I try not to do a whole lot of prejudging and watching film from last year. I did watch some just to make sure and put guys in the best positions we can, trying to have everything open and equal, let everybody earn everything. It's kind of a new day here. That really has been my approach.
All right, so here's Gut. You know what? Listen, I just got here a little bit ago trying to find a house. Real estate market is booming in Orlando. Have you seen the billboards, by the way? I've been busy with these billboards. I know we have a quarterback. He seems like he's pretty good. We got these other guys. They seem okay. I'm bringing some other guys in. So, like, I'm not watching a ton of film right now. I got a lot going on. But we're going to get out there. We'll play. We'll see who's good. We'll see who's not good. And we'll figure. I got good coaches. I'm sure they'll tell me what's going on out there. But I think we got a good quarterback. That's really all I'm interested in. The rest of the guys, we'll just figure out if they're good or not. I mean, I'm not too worried about it. I feel like we're the future of college football. Again, have you seen the billboards, by the way? There's a lot of them. They're up there everywhere. I've been out recruiting too, by the way. I mean, I'm talking to kids. So the guys that are here now, we'll figure that stuff out. But the billboards are looking pretty sweet.
Yeah, he doesn't even know everybody's name yet. Forget and who's who. He's probably just calling them by number at this point. He's not going to know who plays where and who does what best yet. It's only the first day. And looking at film, I mean, he's probably done with that in 10 minutes because the film from one game looks exactly like the film from the next game with the same 5 plays. So that probably didn't take him long. He knows we can throw deep. And he knows we can run maybe right up the middle. And now he's got to adjust the roster to the way he likes it. So.
Well, speaking of the roster, Mike, he was asked about his new quarterback, Dylan Gabriel, and what it was like working with him for the first time. And Gus said, quote, "First of all, with the quarterbacks, we're kind of starting from the basics. All the guys got a chance in the drills. Obviously, Dylan, you can tell he's a guy that's played a lot of football. We went extremely fast. There were a lot of different receivers that rotated in, and that was by design. We'll start getting the timing down and all the little things once we get the big picture. Overall, I thought the quarterbacks were desperate to learn. I thought Dylan led the bunch today." Mike, that sounded great. What does that even mean?
I told Dylan there was this huge chunk of green grass right in the middle of the field in between the hash marks and the numbers. He had no idea what I was talking about. All he knew about was throwing the ball deep down the sideline. And I told him we can use all of this field, and we're going to do that right here in the middle of the field. And so he threw a couple of nice passes over the middle today. I was very pleased with that. And The young guys, they look like they're progressing as well. I still don't know some of their names, but we'll figure it out as we go.
That sounds about right. Yeah, you wonder how long it's going to take the guys to, really have that, muscle memory go away of just kind of the old scheme. I obviously these guys have been playing football for a long time, but you wonder how much of that will kind of be hard or easy to break. Particularly with some of those things like the routes and some of these guys having to learn sort of a new scheme, run over the middle, things like that. You wonder how long or how hard it'll be to break some of those things.
Yeah, old habits die hard. A lot of these guys have been through this before. Even though when Heupel took over for Frost, they said that he tried to keep the same thing, a lot of the same terminology. I don't know if Gus is doing any of that. He's just coming in and wiping the slate clean. So we'll see. But that's what the spring practice is for. You get a couple weeks here, and really it's just to get them prepared for fall. And I think he'll be able to do that in the next few weeks.
All right, Mike. Enough. We had a lot of interviews, Mike. Don't forget we had Dylan Gabriel and Anthony Maltavo. So I mean, the translator works for all of them, right? I mean, there's a lot of stuff there. So be ready.
Yeah, I was gonna get to Dylan, but
we got more.
One more from Gus, if I can find it here. Okay, I noticed a couple things. One is no music. Two is you have the mic set up to the loudspeakers. Are those two standard things for Gus Malzahn practices? And his answer is, we will have music as it goes, but I just thought, especially the first week, we've got to teach. I want to make sure they're locked in so they can hear the coaches. We've slowed down a lot between drills. We either went really slow or really fast, but we will. We'll turn the music on as spring practice goes. I've always had the little mic there just to make sure we can communicate. Everybody can hear, especially the defensive field being on the other side away from the offense.
Listen, this is my show. I'm the head coach, and so I want everyone to know when I talk. I don't want just the offensive guys to hear me. I don't want whoever I'm talking to. When I talk, I want everybody to hear me. I want my voice to be booming from above, like I'm standing over everybody. This is my program. I'm going to put my imprint on it. I'm aware that there are two sides of the ball. I know there's an offensive side, a defensive side, and I'm even aware that there's a third phase of the game I've heard a little bit about called special teams. When I talk, all these guys are going to hear me. At some point, we'll put some music on. I'm not sure what the kids are listening to these days. We'll probably throw some Bill Withers on or something. I don't really know. So we'll get some music working. But as long as they're here, this is the Gus Malzahn show. And I've got my mic. And if I want to turn on to talk to somebody, I'm going to talk. And that's what I'm going to do. And if we need to get some music playing every now and again, and the kids, behave and, they're doing well in practice and, we're playing sharp, then maybe we'll do that. But right now, the only voice they need to hear is mine.
Yeah, the guys asked me to put on some The Baby. I didn't know what the heck they were talking about. They said to put on some who's the girls that were on the Grammys last night? Megan Thee Stallion. I had no idea what they were talking about. So I just said no music for today. We'll go to music when I feel like it. I don't know what kind of music it's going to be. Maybe it's something that they enjoy. But for right now, they need to be able to hear what I'm talking about and learn this playbook. And I want everybody to hear me. Plus, this microphone thing is pretty cool. I say something on the microphone, and you hear a horn go off. I feel like I'm in charge when I do that, something like that.
Well, here's where it's difficult because a lot of what's probably going to come from all these press conferences and a lot of these, Heupel translator renewed sounders is it's going to be a knock on Heupel, right? And I think the one thing that Malzahn said. And again, I think we are going to be more aware of it than these guys are. I mean, I don't think Malzahn really did a lot of research on Josh Heupel. I'm just going to throw that out there. But we've always knocked, and maybe we don't know because we weren't at practices and we didn't get to see these kind of things. We always knocked Heupel for not coaching on both sides of the ball. And what Malzahn said clearly in that answer was, I want the guys in the defense to hear me as well. And so, whether or not that's a knock on Heupel, I don't. Again, it's probably unintentional because I don't imagine Malzahn cares that much or really needs to knock Heupel. But I think it's at least tells you where his head's at and that he wants to be active. He's going to be around both sides of the ball, and he's not just going to be buried in the offensive side. And I know that's a criticism that you've had of Heupel pretty much since his first day here. So it is refreshing to hear that maybe there's a difference, there's a change.
Yeah, that's exactly what I always wanted. Somebody that's a head coach of the entire team. But also, it kind of does say that the defense is all the way over there. He needs to put on a microphone for them to hear him. So he's over the speakers. Doesn't exactly say that he's over there working with them. Again, it's just the first day, so I can see him being with the offense today, but I expect him to be a head coach of everybody and not just the offense.
Well, let's talk defense then. Like, one of the guys who I mentioned that was also interviewed today was Anthony Maltavo, and he was asked a question about the team and the transition, if they were excited. And Maltavo said, and I quote, "I feel a lot of people are excited, especially that everyone's on a clean slate. Coach Martin T. Will told us everyone starts brand new. There's no favoritism. There's no you weren't starting last year. Everybody has a chance. That's giving guys a little more life to compete a little harder," Mike. That's what Anthony Maltavo said. What do you think he really meant?
Well, I love the way T. Will raps in the meetings. And he's saying it's a great song this morning, saying everybody's got a chance, and we all believe it. And these guys know nothing about us. So now we get the chance to go out there every single day and prove to them who we are, and may the best man win. And I'm excited for that because I feel like I am the best man. Do you see these muscles up here on this stage right now? Montavo looked jacked, right?
Big boy. Yeah, he's a big boy.
Yeah, I was impressed. So, yeah, I mean, it's a new day for the whole defense, man. And the defense has to be revamped from last year. So just because you weren't starting last year doesn't mean you're not going to be starting this year. And we're going to bring in some new guys too, transfers, all that. The guys that transferred over last year that didn't get to play much, or when I saw it towards the end, Devon Wilson maybe will have a bigger impact on the defense this year. So maybe moving guys around to different spots on the defense is always a possibility. Let's see what these coaches have to say with how we align the defense now going forward.
I thought excitement was an interesting word to use, Mike. Obviously, what else is he going to say, right? He's not going to say, "Man, we're really bummed out." So of course he's going to say excitement. I think there's no favoritism. I don't know if that's meant to be anything other than just a quote or a cliche he's throwing in there, but basically giving the impression that everybody has a sort of a fair chance to play. Mike, we probably won't talk about it too much, but he was also asked a little bit about how they played last year, and he basically said that he didn't play well, and he gave a little bit of nugget about what they were asked to do last year. Basically, they were just asked to get upfield, and it sounds like they're doing things a little bit differently. So you do like to hear some of what's being changed in between the coaching staffs. So it'll be interesting. And I don't know if any of that again was meant to be a knock, but at least it seems like the guys are buying in, and something's at least being done schematically a little bit different, because I think we all agreed defense, while certainly beset by injuries and all kinds of other stuff, was an area that had to improve. So it's good to at least hear that guys are working hard, guys are competing and battling, and that there's maybe some new tactical stuff that we'll take a look at from a scheme perspective.
Well, if you're looking for somebody to knock somebody, I think this is the quote maybe that got some attention.
Oh, okay.
Talking about the Dylan Gabriel one. And the question was, how was Vibe different in this practice compared to hypo practices? And his first thing he said was, just how organized it is. Truly, I'm just focused on the present. The past has happened. We're here. The future of college football is here. We're really excited to go with it. Coach Gus just basically told us how it's going to go from beginning to end. We were able to talk about it and know exactly what reps we were going to do. He walked us through it. It was super organized, and it showed.
You can't hear it, Mike, but I've been hitting the translator button the entire time you were talking, because that's a lot to translate here. And I think this is probably the most transparent one. So how is it different, Mike? It was just better. We actually had a plan. I knew what we were doing. It seemed like things were clicking. We had some discipline. We had some structure. We had some organization. And it's good to finally have that going forward. I mean, that's essentially what he said right there, right? Of anybody, he's the one who's probably gotten to the line of sort of taking a jab at Heupel more so than anybody else we've heard from. Obviously, he did it very smoothly. I think the best thing about Dylan, and you see this a lot with these kids, Mike, I remember his first press conference, how nervous he was. I mean, he barely said like 3 words. And now I think he's getting to the point where he can do like an expert level troll job while not changing his facial expressions and still giving an answer. So I think he's obviously saying that Gus is a professional coach with a plan in place. They knew what they were going to do. They knew when they were going to do it. They knew how they were going to do it. There was expectations for how it would be executed. They went out there and they did that stuff. And I think whether you want to read into that didn't happen in the past, or he's just saying it's even more accentuated now, I think that's the main difference, that if you think about it, between hiring a veteran coach, an experienced coach, and hiring sort of a first-time coach and a coach maybe who doesn't have head coaching experience. Whether or not Malzahn's resume gets him some of that credibility from the team, or whether or not it's just organized that way. I think Gabriel clearly is kind of laying out the foundation that this is way different, and this is definitely way better for us as well.
I gotta think Heupel's practice had to be organized. We just spoke to Marlon Williams last week. I think it was Marlon, or maybe it was, I think it was Marlon. I was talking about the speed of the practice, how fast they practice. You can't just go into that unorganized and get things done. So I'm sure that it was a little organized. I think maybe the way Malzahn communicated to them beforehand what they were going to be doing each day, maybe that's the difference that Gabriel's talking about. But his quote of, "We're not here to talk about the past and those guys are gone," you kind of get the sense that Heupel kind of left on bad terms with him. Remember when he left, he kind of made that statement of he didn't even get a goodbye. Heupel kind of just left in the middle of the night on these guys. I think some of them may have some hard feelings towards him. Maybe not going to come right out and say it, but that seemed like a little jab there towards Heupel. Right away, he's just saying how much more organized and pretty much to your point, how much more professional this whole system is now.
All right, let's wrap with this one, Mike. If you thought that one had some thinly veiled shade, let's check this one out. Dylan was asked about the family atmosphere of sort of Gus and the new staff, and he said, quote, "This coaching staff really just cares. They're genuine. They're real. They're just truthful. That's all you can ask as a player. Having that feels really good because I know Coach Kinney is going to coach me to the best of my ability and push me. That's what I want, and that's what all these QBs want as well." Mike, what on earth does that mean?
When you read it as this coaching staff just really cares, is that kind of saying the other guys didn't give a crap about us, and it showed when they just left us in the middle of the night? One day they were here, the next day they were gone. These guys want to build the family atmosphere around here. We can feel it already. We feel the love from this coaching staff right away, and we're ready to work for these guys. Whereas those other guys, they're a bunch of liars, and now they're out of here, and we don't want to deal with them anymore.
For me, it was the phrase, "they're just truthful." And you heard rumblings about stuff like, guys felt like they were favorites. Guys felt like they were being played against each other at times. So that's the phrase that really kind of stuck out to me. They're just truthful. And whether that manifests itself into a small, minor things that happen day in and day out, or whether that manifests itself into one big thing that happened, potentially to your point, leaving and not telling anybody, or if there were other major events kind of behind the scenes. I think that their just truthful side is probably the most interesting one about it. And it's hard. We may never know until we get to Sons of UCF episode number 265, whenever we get Dylan Gabriel on, and we can ask him what he meant by that, and we'll see what he says, right? But it's interesting because, these were some, really specific words to say. Like, they're just truthful, didn't need to be said there, right? I mean, he could have easily said they care a lot, we're excited to meet them, it's been a great opportunity, right? To say they're truthful seems like he wants to make sure that that's known. And whether he's trying to curry favor with the new coaching staff or he's trying to get a little jab in at the old one, I guess everyone's up for what you want to decide. For me, it's more exciting and interesting if he's taking a jab at the old one, so that's what I'm going to choose to believe.
We've had a bunch of ex-players now. We keep trying to get them to come out and say what they want to say about Heupel. Nobody's really taken the bait fully. But you kind of get the impression sometimes that not all of them have the best feeling towards Heupel. And I'm just waiting for one guy to just come out and say it.
Well, that's going to happen, right? Here's the reality is that think about your job and think about all the places you've worked. Think about all the teachers you've had, everyone who's been in an authoritative position over you, if you will. Not everybody's going to like that person, right? I mean, you may have a teacher that you loved and everyone else hated. You may hate your boss, everybody else loves him. I mean, that can happen. And so I don't make it seem like we think Heupel is a bad guy and we're trying to get people to tell us that. But I think what would be helpful to understand is the regression of the team from a wins and losses standpoint the last couple of years, how much of that was just due to the team not being unified, the team not being sort of mentally in the right space, the team having trust issues with coaches, having a lot of opt-outs? Obviously, we know about that. We certainly had some a slew of transfers. There are guys who are out there vocal about their experience at UCF, how it wasn't their favorite. Brandon Wilson comes to mind, although he didn't do much on the field, so he gets kind of shouted down because he wasn't a huge impactful player. And so it'd just be curious to see. Everyone's experience is going to be different, and that's kind of why we ask these questions and to figure out did someone have an experience that they think contributed to where the team ended up, and maybe one day Dylan will share that. Maybe it's just a young kid working through the emotions. So I don't want to blame it all on Heupel, but I do think statements like this lead you to wonder that there are probably cracks that are in the foundation that we just never knew about or weren't privy to, and there are probably people on the inside who were. And I'd be curious to figure out how deep those cracks ran and how much that sort of caused the entire UCF football orbit to kind of fall off kilter for a couple seasons.
All right, and remember, these are young kids too. They just went through a breakup. The guy that was telling them to trust him for the last 3 years, and he was going to take care of them, and he was going to bring them to the promised land, and he was going to be that father figure for them. And then all of a sudden he's gone. I can see them being a little jaded a little bit after that, and just, I don't know, not having the best feelings towards Heupel anymore. Whether they did, maybe Dylan and Heupel did get along pretty well for the first year or two, and then maybe something happened this year. I don't know, but one day we'll figure it out. We'll talk to these guys, and somebody is going to come out with a juicy story, because it seems like there's stuff out there. At least when you listen to some of the parents on Twitter and Facebook, some of these guys that have had kids in the program, there's things out there that the parents didn't like about them. So one day we'll get the true stories from somebody.
Well, probably the best thing that he said in that entire thing was that the answer earlier that said, truly, I'm just focused on the present. The past has happened. So Dylan moving forward. And that's what we here at the Sons of UCF will do next, because we have a fun conversation. A fast person joins us on the other side of this break. We caught up to him, and let's all enjoy it together. So don't go anywhere. Sons of UCF coming right back.
Who are the Suns talking to this week? Let's find out.
All right, there's not a lot of people at UCF who have done what our guest did tonight, because he was pretty much everywhere on the field at all times. He was kind of like Mr. Do Everything for UCF, and all he did was end his UCF career with 2,000 rushing yards and total 27 TDs in all three phases of the game. Although not defense, I suppose, but three different phases of the game. Now a UCF graduate and preparing for the NFL draft. We are happy to have Otis Anderson with us tonight on the show. Otis, first off, thank you for taking some time, man. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
No, we appreciate it, man. We got a lot to get into with you. So let me start off the question I ask everybody, which is obviously your story is a little different. You're a Jacksonville guy, so you're kind of right on the border of UCF. You had a bunch of offers coming out of high school. You had Illinois, Iowa State, Northwestern, and some other schools. How did you get involved with UCF, and what made you ultimately decide to become a Knight?
So I got involved with UCF a little bit after my junior year. Matter of fact, I was committed before my senior year. So towards like middle of my junior year, recruiting started picking up. And I always remembered that, UCF was right down the street, but it just didn't fit my profile as far as my skill set. And then Scott Frost ended up coming. I had conversations with him. Coach Beckman recruited me heavily. He was at University Christian as much as he could be. He was always there. He came to the spring game to visit, and they just kept a pretty tight bond with me. I know about Scott Frost from Oregon and how his offense was able to, use a player like me. So I committed, and they always told me what vision they had, and it became true.
Take us through recruiting for those people on listening and that'll never understand it. Once you commit to a school, right? Other schools keep calling you, keep texting you, keep coming up to see you. Is there a lot of pressure on you as a kid once you make a decision? All these other schools are coming after you. Do you kind of stop and second guess yourself? Do you feel like a kind of pressure with all these other schools kind of still pursuing you, even though you've already made your decision?
So yeah, when I was going through the process and I committed to UCF, I was around my 20th offer, and it wasn't an irrational decision. I sat and thought about it for a while. I think I had an offer for like a month, but my visit pretty much held true to what I felt. And then the spring game visit, when I went to visit their spring scrimmage, it held true to what I felt. So I really didn't have any reason to want to shop around and look at other schools. I was good with what I had. That was basically being able to play for Oregon without having to go to Oregon. That was the way I looked at it. So everything continued to pick up, and eventually coaches were of other programs were still reaching out, trying to get me to decommit. Florida and California, Berkeley were the two big schools that were adamant about it. But the way that they try to do it is, before they offer you, they want you to decommit and stuff like that. And I wasn't really too hot on either one of those schools to even take a risk. So I stayed true to what I knew.
You saw a lot of playing time as a freshman. Right away, you stepped right in, and you started progressing as the weeks went on. You had a big game against East Carolina, and then the Navy game, you scored your very first touchdown. It was the touchdown that won the game for us, or sealed the game anyway. What do you remember about the start of that season?
The start of my freshman season was true to pretty much everyone as a freshman. You're trying to earn your keeps. It was a little better for me because I came in early, learned the offense, so I was able to play fluently, play fast, and really enjoy the time I had on the field. The first couple games, I think I was in the game with like 2 touches, 3 touches, all the way up until I want to say a homecoming. Homecoming was my big come out party. I had to start at receiver for the first time in college. Dedrick Snelson, he was injured, so he wasn't able to play. And I had 7 receptions, I think 76 yards. That was the first big game that I had. So once they saw that I was able to play comfortably, it went up from there. That game, the Navy game, was kind of scary for me, just being a freshman and knowing that AK and Taj and Coach Held and Scott Frost believed in me to lead me in for that drive. That's a big drive. You're not really too confident in younger guys in a situation like that because of situational awareness, and just a small personal mistakes could happen that could cost the game. But they left me in, and I proved myself.
Yeah, you kept getting better and better as that season went on. And obviously the last 3 games of that year were crazy. Well, again, the one against South Florida, then the championship game, and then the Peach Bowl. And you had huge plays in every one of those.
Right.
The one against South Florida, the screenplay against the blitz, the famous call. What do you that play, is that still one of your favorites? And did you think we were going to go for 2 and kind of ice the game after that touchdown?
Nah, I didn't expect for me to score. I saw that was the first time that I saw that play call pretty much ever. I knew that we had it in the playbook. I'm glad that I was dialed into the playbook. That wasn't in the game plan. I was just Scott Frost being Scott Frost, calling what he saw to perfectly counter what was coming. He did a lot of film review with us. He was able to call out certain things from the structures of the defense. He saw the structure that he wanted, and he called the perfect screenplay. And it kind of went well because I had just cut a defensive end coming off the edge a couple plays before. So that was kind of like a fake cut screen, and the rest was history. I didn't even after that. I pretty much thought the game was over, honestly.
Yeah, I thought that was my first reaction too. As the game was over, we went up by 8. That's what I'm saying. If we go for 2 there, even if we don't get it, we're still up 7. If we do get it, the game is definitely over. But then we don't
Right.
get the Mike Hughes kick return, so I guess it
Right.
all worked out.
Well, then next week, championship game, Otis, your first 100-yard rushing performance, you went 15 for 113 and a touchdown. And obviously that game was crazy. Do you even remember that game? There were so many ups and downs, so many things kind of going around. Do you have a recollection of that game and just how crazy that entire atmosphere was that day?
Yeah. So that was the second big game of my career. That was, I think, the first time that we had a true sellout crowd for my freshman year. I want to say that the USF game was almost sold out, but I know the Memphis game was a true sellout. I remember the ups and downs. I remember us being down big, and it just seemed like Anthony Miller and Riley Ferguson just couldn't miss. They were locked in. You could tell that they had felt great about their game plan, and that was just the game for me to be able to show what I had. It was a game where Frost pretty much let the players play. It wasn't too much to think about. It was just pretty much getting the ball in open space and doing my magic and making everything work. So that pretty much played out to the best for our team.
Well, how bittersweet was that game, right? Because obviously, at that point, you're an 18-year-old freshman, right? You're cracking college football. You're at the highest of the highs, and then you guys probably heard the rumors, but after the game, you officially hear that Coach Frost is leaving. Take us through those emotions, right? You just come off a huge win, and you as a freshman, you said you want to go and play for Frost and his offense, and right after your biggest game, you find out he's leaving. Take us through your mind. What were you thinking at that point?
I was hurt. I remember I had a media after the game. I had literally just took pictures with the trophy, and I put down the trophy to have a media, and they're asking how I feel about Scott Frost leaving, and I was so devastated that I just had to say next question because emotions usually get the best of 18-year-olds, and I didn't want to say anything that can, tarnish a relationship that me and him have because we're still tight. I wasn't able to talk to him during my career at UCF, but now that I'm done, we've had communication. So just had to pretty much just try to avoid the question and avoid giving the answers because everyone knows that I was extremely hurt. That was probably like the best coach that I've had up until that point.
Any part of you kind of want to just go with him to Nebraska? Was there any talk of that or any thought about transferring? You still had a lot of eligibility left. You could have played over there for a few years.
Yeah. I think that went through everybody's head. I know it went through mine, especially being that I just got there and literally everything that he told me that I would be able to do in the offense, I did. So I pretty much felt like it was no reason for me to even think about staying. I really wanted to leave, but conversations with your parents will make you calm down and just think everything out. So I decided to stick it out.
You didn't want to go experience that cold weather either.
It's really cold, though. It's really cold there.
Yeah, that was a big reason why I ain't leave.
So the Peach Bowl, obviously, he comes back for one last one. The Peach Bowl, you have another big play in that one, too. You scored a touchdown to tie the game. What do you remember about that whole day, the celebration, everything, the national championship claim? Tell us about
that. Honestly, that whole week is pretty much like a blur. I just remember certain spots of situations and certain spots of the game. I had such an emotional high that it was kind of I was floating. I didn't really realize what I was in until you look back and watch it on TV. Um, it was a real emotional game. Being that we knew that was the last time that we would be on the sideline with Scott Frost, and last time that that group of guys would be together on the same football team. That kind of runs through your head as you're warming up. And I finally had really started getting like media attention. So just knowing that teams before, it's kind of easy to have a breakout game when nobody's really looking for you. But once you become like a part of the offense, that teams notice that you show up on film and that you're making plays and that you have ability, they start to check your tendencies a little more. So that was the first game I knew that I had to actually bring everything I had to the table, and that's probably my most memorable game, just my favorite game, playing against an SEC team and showing no fear. That was my big motto. I didn't want to show any fear, and I didn't fear him. I feared no one on the field, and it was just an exciting time.
Otis, I don't know about you, but at least once a month, I still wake up in the middle of the night having nightmares about the play early in the game where KZ throws the ball maybe about 2 yards over your head, but you were wide open. If you had caught that little pop pass over the middle, you might still be running right now. Do you still have nightmares about that? I know I do. I know I wake up at least once a month thinking about what could have been if that had just floated in your hands. Do you still think about that one?
I mean, every now and then, probably few and far in between. If I see someone like maybe just barely miss a big play just because, just miscommunication or just barely outside of their fingertips, it kind of gives me flashbacks. But, Mackenzie did a lot of great things. So that one play, it's easy to forget about. It's easy for it to be buried in my memory from all of the great throws he made for me to be able to get the ball, and a lot of great throws that he made for the team to win.
So what's it like playing with a guy like Mackenzie? Because he can make so many plays out of nothing, right? Sometimes he would turn a scramble drill into something. He would sort of, make a fantastic play as a skill position player. I mean, you always had to be prepared, because did you ever really know what he could do? Were you always kind of like, I got to be prepared for anything, because I don't care what position I'm in, where I'm standing, what's happening. He actually might throw me the ball. Does that kind of force you to play differently?
Yeah, you have to play alert. You have to be alert. You have to be ready for the impossible. You have to be ready for, even though it's a read option to the right side, on the left side, you have to be ready to hold your block for 5 seconds, because it could end up coming back to your side. You could end up on the backside of a concept that you're not even ever supposed to get a look. You're just a decoy, but now you see he's scrambling, and you take the big home run post, and he throws it to you for 70 yards, and you score. So we used to watch film, and triple options with me, him, and AK. We used to have to, like, me and AK used to tell each other, like, whoever's the pitch guy, just, like, we literally had to stay in phase with him up to 20 yards or more down the field, just because you never know when he might pitch it.
Well, yeah, that's what he did in that game in 2017 against the Cows, right? I mean, AK and him probably ran like 10 yards parallel before KZ finally pitched that thing off to him. Did he ever make a play where you were like watching, you're on the field, where you were just like, oh my God, how did he just do that? You know what I mean? Did he ever kind of keep you in awe? Or one play you can think of where your jaw just hit the ground at what you saw him just do?
There's so many of them. I can't just single it out. I don't think there was ever a time where we were on the field and he didn't make a big play like that. I think the first time I really realized the type of player he was the FIU game, the first game of the season. He was scrambling to the right side. He set up, directed Akins to, take it a little further, and then he just threw it. And big home run touchdown, big home run post off a scramble drill. That was the first time that I really realized that this is the type of quarterback that he can be, that he will be.
All right, so after the Peach Bowl, everything settles down. Frost leaves. Heupel comes in. what are your reactions when you first get to meet Heupel? Are you nervous? Are you scared that he's not going to use you properly? What are you first thinking when that whole new staff comes by?
Yeah. So the first day that he was brought in, I went and had a conversation with him in the office, in the head coach office, and I just asked him what was the plan and how was everything going to work with me, because I was young, I still had time, so if I didn't really fit in the offense, it wasn't any hard feelings. I'd just look for another home. But he assured me that everything would be all right and that he liked the skill set I had, so I took a chance on it.
Do you feel like he did use you properly that first year? For some reason, I feel like that year, I guess maybe you were banged up a little bit too, but I didn't see as many touches in 2018.
Yeah, I didn't really. I wasn't really the focal point of the offense in 2018. It was, I guess, just a different scheme. Just trying to find the niche in the conference for him as far as play calling. Maybe I just got lost in the shuffle a couple times. Maybe he didn't realize what position I was at or whatever. But everything was for a reason. I picked up a new skill that season with punt return, so I was able to focus on that. And the 2018 year was kind of the year of the year of maturity for me. Just understanding that everything is never gonna go perfect forever. That you just have to take care of what you can take care of, and then what God got for you, it'll happen.
Well, yeah, you hung in there all year, and you did a great job. And then, we get to the championship game, and you have one of the biggest plays of the game with the peace out touchdown. Is that something you always think about doing? You see Tyreek Hill do it, and maybe you want to do it one day, or is that something that came naturally when you did it?
No. So it was really a agreement between me and AK. He told me that whoever scores, a pretty decent run or whatever, once we make separation, that whoever was scoring had to do it. So it just so happened it was me.
Well, that's one of the most iconic photos in UCF history too. Right? There's a bunch of pictures of people who snapped that shot. Just a perfect moment of you with the defender on the ground, and you have the peace sign up. But take us through that season for just a second. Like just tactically, how does it work? Right? Obviously, when the depth chart came out that year, you were listed as utility, which was kind of weird. Right? It's the first time we had seen that as a fan base, right? So we were like, wait, what does that mean? There's too many people listed here. How's this going to work? And then you split time between receiver and running back. Like during the practice week, were you spending time with the running back room? Were you spending time in the receiving room? Did you have to go in both rooms? Like, what was that like for you? Because that had to be such a unique role when you essentially had to know two different positions down cold. How'd you practice? How'd you split your weeks from just a learning standpoint?
So it was pretty much the same as with Frost. It was just that finally, I guess I got my own title. I would either meet with the running backs before practice, and then for afternoon meetings, I would go with the receivers or vice versa. Or sometimes I would have to double up on meetings. So afternoon meetings, I'll come back as a running back, meet with the running back coach, and then have to go over to the receiver room after meetings is done. Everybody's going to dinner, and I would have to watch my clips and certain teach tapes that I needed to refine myself on. So it was like I said, it was a year of finding myself mentally and as well as physically. There were some times where I was a little banged up. So just being able to fight through certain injuries and stuff like that. A high ankle sprain that's probably one of the toughest injuries to play with, especially being the type of player I was. I just didn't have the true mobility that I wanted. So, that was a little tough.
Well, and I forgot to mention, by the way, when you're doing all that, you also have to learn, like you said, a new role in the punt returner. So when did you fit that in, right? And now you're doing time running back room, you're doing time with the receivers, and obviously you're spending some time with special teams and kind of learning a new skill. How did you enjoy being a punt returner? Was it something you asked for? How did that kind of come about where you were going to start returning kicks?
So it's not something I asked for. It's just something that chose me. I was, just back there. The running back coach was the punt return coach, and he wanted me to practice it, and it was pretty much up for grabs between me, Richie Snelson, Trey Nixon, and some other players. So, throughout camp, I just continued to improve. I was already explosive, so it chose me. I didn't get to choose it, but I think that's what made my practice so unique. There was never a time I had any downtime to actually rest during practice. I was always moving. I was always picking up a new skill. I was always refining my skills, and I think that's what prepared me to be able to play in the next level.
Something Adam and I always talked about during that year was we wanted to see you and AK in the backfield at the same time. And we didn't really see it, except one time we saw it for a 2-point conversion against LSU in the Fiesta Bowl. Is that something you guys practice, that formation at all? Or shouldn't we have seen more of that combination?
Yeah, it was definitely a possibility of having that formation because we used it so much the year before. It was natural for us to be in the backfield with each other. But I think the playbook kind of took a hit once McKenzie got hurt. Even though we didn't do it before, but I think the playbook really took a hit once McKenzie got hurt. I'm not sure if the play calling was as comfortable with the decision making of DJ because of the inexperience in certain games and read option and triple option. That's a lot to think about. So that one particular play we always practice throughout the week, but as far as just having a basic offense and being able to exploit the defense that way, I'm not sure if that was in the best interest of the team at that point to be able to really open it up and do that.
So we finally get our first loss, the first one of your career at the end of that season. What happens? What are you thinking about at the end of that game? I mean, you had a good run, 25 in a row. What were your emotions like when we finally lost one?
This is what it feels like to lose. I was devastated because I was spoiled. I hadn't lost a game since even before that, since my senior year of high school. Like the third game of the season, my senior year of high school was the last time I had lost a game. So I was pretty much on a super good winning streak. I was up like 40 games or 30 games. So I was hurt, but every loss is something to learn from. We had something to learn from that. It added fuel to the fire for me. That off season was an off season that I'll never forget. And it helped propel me to the next season.
Well, tell us about that. What was that off season like for you? What were you doing to train and prepare? What was different for you?
I had a major body change that off season. Put myself through a lot of stress, not bad stress, but the good stress. Trying to shape and mold my body differently. Trying to refine my skills at receiver. Being actually comfortable with being a receiver. Adding new footwork to my arsenal as a running back. Really getting comfortable with being uncomfortable at punt return, and I think that showed with the production of my junior year.
Well, then we start the season, right? So I got a couple for you here. So first one for you is: do you still feel bad for the poor guy at FAU that you just juked right out of position? Do you feel bad for that guy?
No.
Okay, I don't either because
Not at all.
they tried to burn Nitro the night before, so I don't feel bad for him either. Then the next week, Stanford comes to town, right? It's supposed to be a big game, and you guys just housed. I mean, I don't even know if that was a ball game. How did you guys feel after that, right? Obviously, the national media was always, let's see UCF do it against the big boys. Let's see if they can really compete. And you bring in a quote-unquote Power 5 school, and you guys just wiped them off the field. Was that for you guys? Was that a statement game? Was that a game you guys were just waiting to play just because you want to continue to prove to people that UCF belonged?
I don't even remember looking at this game as a big game. If I'm being honest, I know me personally, I didn't look at this game as a big game from what I saw on film. I knew what we were going to be able to do, and we went out and did exactly what we said we were going to do. So that game was pretty much just a statement game for the rest of the people to understand what we had. But as far as like us, we didn't have any expectations of what that team could have done.
And then next week we travel up to Pittsburgh. So you got to take us through the play. You had the 87-yard punt return for a touchdown. I think you probably broke, if I counted right, at least 5 tackles. Can you take us through that play? What you saw, what you were thinking, where you were trying to set up, and just take us through how you end up 87 yards later in the end zone.
So I went out. It's lonely at punt return. You're literally the only person back. It gets quiet before the ball is snapped, and I just remember him. He did a pretty good job punting the ball all game. Just perfect hanging time, perfect distance that I didn't get a chance to return, and he got a hold of it. And I think the wind might have made it drift a little bit more. And once I got it, as soon as I caught it, I knew that it kind of pinned me to the boundary, and I just took off running straight to the wide side of the field. I was able to outrun a couple players, and the only reason I was pointing was to tell Richie that the punter was the only person left. I was trying to tell Richie, like, block the punter, and Richie thought I was saying, like, pointing towards him, like, I'm coming. And so he kind of waved his hand, like, come on. And once he turned his head, the punter ran straight past him. And I was running too fast to even be able to put anything in my head to what I needed to do to get past this punter. And he was so tall that he went to reach, and I literally just ducked. I leaned forward a little bit, dropped my head, and I ducked right under him. And I just felt someone grab me, and I was running so fast I couldn't do anything else but kind of spin, and that kind of helped me gain my balance again. And I went to go cut back across the field, but I saw someone from the right side of me from behind they had an angle to pretty much be able to tackle me, so I had to cut right back up and just run straight to the end zone. And I remember looking at the big screen to see how close he was, and Richie had ended up blocking him.
So Richie made up for that, because if the punter had gotten you, Richie would have never heard the end of it from you, right?
Yeah, I'd have been mad at Richie.
Luckily he made up for it by getting a block for you at the end there.
Yeah.
That play would have been one of the most iconic plays ever had we won that game. And when you made that play, I thought for sure we were going to win. It gave us the lead after we were trailing all day. And then we ended up actually taking a 10-point lead and somehow let that one slip away. That's got to be one of the toughest losses we've ever had, right?
Yeah. That's a loss that kind of hurts your pride.
Yeah, and then the Cincinnati loss a couple of weeks later too. I guess it was just Dylan having a tough night as a freshman with a few turnovers, and things just snowballing out of control. We never really got the offense rolling that night. What was the big problem that night?
I mean, it was a new scheme. We didn't see defensively. That was the first time we saw 3-3-5. Had a guy unaccounted for pretty much every snap, and he was heavily in the box. He was fitted outside of the box, but as soon as the player snapped, he'll pop up in the box. He'll stop a lot of the run plays, We were game planning for a whole different defense. They came out in 3 down instead of 4 down. They had an extra DB run fit, so it was a lot of different things. And I just don't think that Dylan was expecting the defense to come out in that structure.
All right. Well, a couple of weeks later, you had, I think, maybe your best game. You had the bulk of the carries, and you had 17 carries, 205 yards against Temple, and you also returned some kicks that night. Do you prefer getting the bulk of the carries like that? Is it easier for you to get into a rhythm, or do you not mind splitting carries and staying fresher?
Honestly, I would like to get in the rhythm. It's a way to split the carries and still be able to get in the rhythm, but I just need to be able to get in the rhythm. I think after the first couple of plays of actually being able to be the main guy, I kind of get a feel for how the linebackers play, how the defensive linemen are playing, and once I get a true feel for that, I get to play how I really want to play. Once I get to the third level, that's kind of just that's just playing football. But the first 2 levels of the defense is the most important levels in order to be able to spring big runs.
Well, we wrap up that season with a bowl victory in the Tampa area against Marshall, and you had a decision after that, Otis. I know you were deciding kind of if you want to come back, if you wanted to go maybe test the NFL waters. What was kind of leading your decision making process, and what ultimately had you decide to come back to UCF?
I felt like I had a pretty good season, just showing my versatility. And as a child, I always had NFL dreams, and I didn't really want to take a risk of coming back to college and possibly having an injury. I saw that a million times, and then I saw players have a great season, and then the next season they come back and it's just everybody games plan for them, and they don't have a great season. Now they go undrafted and stuff like that. So it was a lot of different things I was weighing on my mind, but I really just sat it out and I really thought about it. I took all the way up until the last day, literally until the last day that I could to make the decision, and I just decided to come back and add a couple pounds and actually hone in on some of the things that I really didn't get to the season before.
Well, then something nobody could predict. 2020 happens, and obviously COVID-19 breaks out, and that impacts your practice time. Obviously, you guys were a lot of teammates. You kind of got quarantined back at home. What was that period of time like for you? How were you staying in shape? How were you staying right mentally too? Right, because I'm sure there was so much uncertainty at what was going to happen. Would you have a season? Take us through that time period. What's going through your mind, and how are you kind of staying positive and staying in shape and staying ready?
It was frustrating. You have to do your own in-home workouts. Luckily, I have a pretty nice size yard that I was able to do some field work in. So that kept my sanity, honestly, and it gave me a little time to be to myself. I felt like I was missing some alone time, being that I've always been so wrapped up in the sport since I was the age of 4. I never really had time to actually sit down and plan things out other than sports. So that gave me a lot of time to be able to catch up with my family, plan things out, and then get back into the workouts.
Well, we probably get to a season, which I guess that's the first question. Did you actually ever think we would get to play games in 2020? Were you optimistic that would even happen?
No, I didn't think it was going to happen, honestly.
Did you think about opting out? Obviously, a lot of guys had the option. Did you think about maybe just sitting out and maybe either preparing for the draft or taking that free year and hiring a trainer and just working out? Did you think maybe it was better for you to not play at all in 2020?
Yeah, I thought about it because it was so many unknowns, and I was big on the insurance of the NCAA. Like what's going to happen if we get COVID and the long-term effect kick in after a couple of years or something like that we wouldn't know about until we get more research. But and another thing was just being able to have my grandparents at the game. They weren't able to come this year, and that was devastating for me because they're literally the two most important people other than my parents to me, for me to see in the stands. My mom told me just to control what I can control, and that my grandparents would watch every game from the TV, not to sit out just for that reason. So I decided to play, and we're here now.
Well, the season starts pretty well, right? We beat Georgia Tech pretty handily. East Carolina, we had a slow start, a bunch of false starts, but we figured that one out too. And then Otis. What the hell is the deal with Tulsa? How do they have our number? In 2019, they got us. In 2020, they get us again. What is it about Tulsa? What do they do that sort of, either gives us fits or is able to shut down our offense?
It's the defensive scheme. Honestly, the 3-3-5 was our downfall for the last couple of years. We just couldn't defeat it. Clogged up the passing lanes, and they added a lot of unblocked defenders into the run game. So we weren't able to, get comfortable and get into actual rhythm. Even when we were up, it really felt like we were losing. They don't allow you to catch momentum the way you would want to.
Well, let me ask you this question, and if you don't want to answer it, you don't have to answer it. But just as a fan, as somebody who went to the school, as an alumni, here was the frustration, right? Tulsa did exactly what they did pretty much the year before, right? They did what Cincinnati did the year before, and yet it seemed like from a coaching standpoint, we had nothing schematically that we could do to counteract that. You just said the same thing, like they had unblocked defenders. Was there something that just from a coaching standpoint or just from a scheme standpoint that you guys could have done differently, or do you think that there was a good game plan coming in? Again, if you want to answer that question, I know you're trying, I don't want to make you throw somebody under the bus, but it just feels like in those couple of games, maybe we got out coached more so than we got outplayed. You want to hit me with the next? You can hit me with the next question if you want. It's cool.
Yeah, next question, please.
When we're losing tough games like that, though, that game, the Memphis game, obviously things are getting a little out of control on the sidelines. You're a very active person on social media and Twitter. How hard is it for you to block out the fans during tough times like that? Do you have to just shut everything down, or do you see everything everybody's saying?
No, I see everything. When we're winning, I see everything. When we're losing, I see everything. I literally see everything. But like I said, once you get into a position of who you are, you can never be comfortable of what you did last week, last year, last night. You can't be comfortable. Once you do great, the fans, you're the next best thing in the world. Once you have a couple bad plays, then I don't understand why we're playing him. So it's always going to be ups and downs with fans. That's what makes the game of football, honestly. So being on social media, it kind of gives me two different perspectives of how to look at it, and I think that's why I stay so active on it.
This season was nuts. We talked about the COVID stuff, obviously the tough losses, and then we have that incident where half the guys on defense get kicked off the team. What's the reaction from the other guys on the team? One, are you guys upset with them for going out and doing something stupid and getting caught, or are you upset with the coaching staff with the way they handled it? Take us into the locker room that weekend.
I think it was both. I think we were disappointed in the players for going out and and doing what they did, and then we were disappointed in the coach for how it was handled. And then we're also disappointed in just the whole situation itself. It could have been avoided easily. So it was just more disappointing than anything.
I mean, we understand you guys are college kids. You guys are going to go out and party. Trust me, me and Adam did it all the time. But in a season like this where the COVID thing was real and games could get canceled, were most of the guys going out, or was that just something that these guys kind of just got caught on a rare occasion?
No, I don't think that. I think that was rare, honestly, because everybody was so scared to test positive for COVID. That was the first time I knew of players going out.
Right, obviously, there was a lot of negative stuff in 2020, Otis. But looking back on the season, give us a positive. Give us one positive memory, one positive thing that you took away or you'll take away from the 2020 season.
The one positive thing that I take away, one thing I say that we actually came together as brothers, not just as teammates, but as brothers off the field. It's kind of like we didn't have a choice but to, because we were in our own bubble. Like we didn't have a choice to be able to go and hang out with other people, because we're not practicing with those people. These are the people that we have to be with all the time, because these are the only people we can be with. You know, we actually became brothers. We had true bonding, and everything was genuine within the brotherhood.
Well, then that got tested pretty quickly. Obviously, you had left and moving on to your next adventure, and then the news breaks Hypo's leaving, and so that brotherhood gets tested. Were you surprised? Were you shocked? What were your emotions when you heard or got text or whatever that Hype was gonna leave?
Yeah, I was surprised. I didn't. Honestly, I was surprised to hear that Danny White left, and then to hear that Hypo left and went to the same place. That's something that was unexpected. But I really feel like, if anything, the COVID year of football really prepared the players to be able to stick together through the thick and thin.
I was going to ask that. Obviously, you know, you're not there day to day anymore, but you got to look at some of those guys like your little brothers, right? You help them kind of grow up. Like, how proud are you of the way they've handled this, and you know their reaction to Coach Malzahn? And I know initially a lot of guys were maybe looking for Jeff Lebby to come in, and then everyone seems to be embracing Gus Malzahn, and everyone seems to be all on the same page and kind of pulling forward from afar, still knowing those guys really well. How proud are you to kind of see their growth and their maturity and the way they've kind of handled this whole situation?
I'm super proud, because you know it's two sides of a coin in every situation, and I believe that, you know, they picked the best side of the coin. Embrace it, because what can you do if Levy's not brought in? You can't pout forever. You know, you got to move forward. I think this is a good life lesson for them. Just, you know, nothing's gonna always go your way. Nothing's gonna be perfect. You're not gonna get what you want all the time, but you're gonna get what you need. So maybe this is what UCF needed, and maybe this is what the players. He's a mentor that the players need as well.
Yeah, you just quoted the Rolling Stones. I don't know if you knew that. You might be too young to even realize you did that just now. You can't always get what you want, but you get what you need. So tell us what's going on now. Are you training for Pro Day, obviously? Getting ready for the NFL? What's your training like?
I work out twice a day, speed and agility, and in the weight room. So it's very exhausting, and it's exciting though. You know, it's kind of like a marathon. I'm ready for it to be over. I'm ready for Pro Day. Ready to show what I got, so we can go on to the next chapter.
What's your 40 time looking like? You gonna beat Trey Nixon and Jacob Harris? Because I know they got a bet going with each other, and neither one is beating you though, right?
No, they ain't gonna beat me. maybe if I slip or something, but if this is me just with a good start, they ain't beat me.
Well, hold on. So Greg McCrae told us he's faster than both of them. So I know he's your fellow running back. I know you guys are tight, but you and Greg lining up on the 40, you're winning that one too?
Yeah, I'm winning that one.
Okay. That sounds right.
I've seen Greg get caught from behind a couple times. I don't remember too many times Otis getting caught from behind.
Greg got a great start. You know, he got a great start. That's That's what he's known for. His start is awesome. That's gonna help him a lot with his 40. You know, he's fast. He's still fast, but you know his start is probably the number one thing that you would say about Greg if you work out with him. You know.
Yeah, I always admired his patience in the hole and just setting up his blocks. I thought he did that great.
Yeah, he's a very patient, smart runner.
All right, so
what are you trying to work on the most? What do you want to need to improve on before pro day?
Honestly, I've been improving on my strength, and I've been trying to get down just the fact that I'm gonna be doing everything. Obviously, I work out with the receiver coach on Tuesdays, and a running back coach on Tuesdays and a receiver coach on Thursdays. So I'm getting both of those in. Just honing in on the little skills that I can use to propel me.
we appreciate you've been really generous with your time, but we end every interview around here with some fun questions. So it could be music, movie, sports, could be anything. You never know what's going to come at you. So here's my first one for you. Obviously, the run UCF went on, and that's 17, 18 seasons, legendary. It's one for the history books. If they ever make a movie about the 2017-2018 UCF Knights team, who is going to play Otis Anderson in that movie? Which actor will play you in that movie?
I really wish I was older than Denzel Washington.
Okay.
He would have to play me. If it was possible for him to go into Time Warp and come out and be my age, it would definitely have to be Denzel Washington. But I'll be fine with y'all watch All American?
Yeah.
Y'all ever watch All American?
Yeah.
I would be okay with one of those players because they have a good storyline. But when it comes down to doing the on the field stuff, they have to get a stunt double or something because the All American. When they're on the field, they're just trash.
That's terrible. That's so bad. I mean, they could do a lot of CGI though. Maybe Denzel, they could do some computer graphic stuff, and they can transform him into a young looking guy. It could be possible. Hollywood does a lot of amazing things.
Yeah, I need Denzel. I need Denzel to be able to play as Otis Anderson Jr.
All right. So obviously, you're much younger than Denzel. You're much younger than us. When you think about the Karate Kid, is it Ralph Macchio? Or is it Jaden Smith? Which one did you grow up with?
Wow.
No, I grew up with Ralph. I grew up with Ralph.
That's a good answer. Did you watch the Cobra Kai? Did you get into that show?
No, I didn't really too much get into it, but I know growing up, my dad always watched the Karate Kid, and he always used to quote Mr. Miyagi with wax on, wax off.
All right, if you could only go on one reality TV show, either The Bachelor, Dancing with the Stars, or American Idol, which one would you pick?
I'll go with Dancing with the Stars.
I mean, I saw the moves on the punt return. I mean, if that's anything like the football field, you may have a chance. I mean, usually athletes do really well on that show.
Yeah, I got good feet and good hips.
You think you're more of a Mamba guy? You're more of a salsa guy, a waltz? What do you think your best dance would be?
I'll go with the salsa.
Okay.
I think I'll be good with the salsa.
A little Victor Cruz style, maybe that could be your touchdown dance.
Yeah, I think about yeah, some little Chad or some Cinco probably.
All right, I'm gonna try something different here. I'm gonna put 20 seconds on the clock.
Oh Jesus!
And I'm gonna see how many superheroes can you name in 20 seconds. Are you ready?
Wow, superheroes! Dang, that's a good throwback. All right, let's try it.
All right, ready? Let's go.
Superman, Batman, Flash, Green Lantern, Wonder Woman, Robin. I'm drawing a brain fart.
Yeah, 3 seconds.
That's it. That's all I can think of. It's
You
been
got
a while
6.
since I watched superhero movies.
You got 6. I think those are all DC guys. Yeah, I think you got to get into the other side maybe with the Hulk and Captain America and those guys. You got a few more.
Yeah, I left some on the table.
All right, Otis.
That just means there's room for improvement.
Otis, I'd love your mom, how close you and your mom are. I was close with my mom, so I always enjoy and I'd like to see those relationships. But your mom's not afraid to get after it on Twitter either. Do you ever wake up and go through Twitter and see a fight she's in and go call her up and be like, "Mom, what are you doing? Would you knock it off, please?" Do you ever just wake up, see your phone, and see your mentions blowing up with your mom and just give her a call and tell her to back it off?
Yeah, all the time. But, I mean, you really can't tell your mom what to do.
That's fair. Wait till you get married. Try that.
All right, what's your favorite dessert? You finally get a cheat day and you can pick out on something. What are you going with?
I'm not really big on desserts. I think the only thing that can really get me out of my character and get me to eat dessert is a good red velvet cake.
Yeah, that's a nice choice.
A good red velvet cake. That would get me. Or around the holidays, and my mom cooks. She makes this. It's like a cake. It's called ooey gooey cake bars. That gets me out of my character too.
All right,
Sounds delicious.
Right now, Otis, we're doing a little NCAA bracket style tournament situation with the greatest plays in UCF history. You've got a handful that are on the list, but I'm going to give you three, and maybe you have another one I'm not thinking of. But which of these is your favorite play of Otis Anderson? Is it the peace out TD against Memphis? Is it that perfect screen pass that you caught against the Cows? Or is it the punt return you had against Pitt? If you had to pick one of your favorite plays that you made, and maybe it's not even one of those three, which one would you pick?
I think it'll be a screen. I think the only reason it's a screen because that pretty much helped us get to where we are now as a program. That was a major contributor. That started the undefeated talk.
Well, I think
it's a huge play out, isn't it?
It is. I think that one's actually right now. We have it up on Twitter for voting for people to vote. I think that's the 8-9 matchup. If I have that right, Mike. And so we'll see how things maybe line up for you. We'll let you know how the results turn out for you on that one. All right, my new favorite question, then we'll really let you go. So what is your favorite hypelism? So the one thing everyone got used to with Coach Hype was he said the same damn thing over and over again. So what did you like the most? Was it go 1-0? Was it all three phases of the game? Was it somebody was multiple? Was it snap to whistle? Was it get on the grass? He likes guys that compete. He wants to build real relationships. Did you have a favorite hypelism?
Yeah, I got one. It's a new one. You ain't this one. It was one that all the players, if you ask any player, if Hype would say, "You got me? All right, you got me."
That's a good one.
That's the one.
That's a good one. You got me. Awesome.
Do you do a hypo impression? I know. Who was it that told us that Dylan does a pretty good one and Mackenzie does a really good one? Are you able to pull off the hypo?
Sometimes it depends. It depends on what kind of conversation he had with the team. But just team meetings after like a dead count, he'll come in and turn on the film, and he'll be like, "This is the compete player today. Big guy running down the field 20 yards. You got me? That's competing his ass off. That's what makes him go 1-0. Just little stuff like that. that was big. I was hyper for you.
Well, listen, Otis. I mean, you were a legend at UCF, man, and all the things you did. You were part of some great teams. Your work ethic, your heart, everything you did on the field, man. I know we're huge fans of yours. I can't wait to see what happens next for you, wherever you end up. I hope Knight Nation will always be rooting for you, man. So we appreciate you taking some time, man. We wish you the best of health, best of luck, and hopefully we'll get a chance to see you playing on Sundays really soon.
All right, thank you. I appreciate you.
All right.
Thank you for having me.
Charge on.
Mike and Adam, sons of UCF. That'll move those chains. That's good enough for another UCF first down.
All right, well, it is March, Mike, and listen, you did some fantastic work here over the weekend, and every year, when March Madness comes around, everybody has their brackets. All the brackets are out. People do all kinds of things. They, restaurants and movies and God knows what else. But we here at the Sons of UCF, and by we, I really mean Mr. UCF Mike over here. we decided we would do our own bracket, and Mike went through a painstaking process of ranking the 64 best plays in UCF history and has presented them bracket style. And so sort of just like a tournament, Mike, there are seeds. There are people who will play against each other, and voting will take place on Twitter, on Facebook, in the dungeon, if you're a member there. And we will vote on who wins between these. So, for example, Mike, our overall number 1 seed, I believe, is the Mike Hughes reservation for 6 in the Cabanas. And in round 1 matchup will be the 2007 hit by Sharif Rashad against Mississippi State. So that's kind of how this thing works. You can find all these brackets on Mike's Twitter handle. That's at UCFMike1. And what we're going to do now, Mike, is we're going to go through each of these particular brackets, and we're going to maybe highlight a matchup or two to watch, maybe an upset special, or maybe something that we have. And let's start with you name these brackets after different UCF landmarks. And the first one is the Reflecting Pond, Mike. So let's start with the Reflecting Pond bracket. Again, Mike Hughes, the number 1 seed in that bracket, number 1 overall seed. What do you have in this bracket, Mike, in this particular side that interests you, that you think is upset worthy?
I mean, in every bracket you look at, you always, at least for me, I go right to the 8-9 matchups, or I go to the 5-12 in traditional basketball brackets. That's where most of the upsets seem to come from. There's so many plays, man. It was easy for me to think of the plays, and then ranking them was a lot tougher. So I kind of did what I thought was a better play and seeded them that way. And if a play came in a loss, I really penalized it and dropped it down the seed. So some of those spectacular plays have low rankings because of that. But in this bracket, obviously Hughes is the clear number 1. It's the overall number 1 seed for the whole tournament. Looking at this bracket right now, the 5-12, like I mentioned, you got the Collier interception to end the Peach Bowl as the 5 seed against 24K's run in the championship game. And I made these seeds last week, right? And now I'm starting to put videos together. I watched that 24K run in the championship game again today. What a run that was. The guy's getting pulled down by his face mask going down the sideline. He's just throwing people off of him. He's bouncing off guys. That was a great run in that game. That's a tough matchup. What else? I got some historic ones in there, some things that maybe the younger UCF fans are not familiar with, and I think you're going to see a lot of recency bias in the voting. But the number 3 seed, the Franco Grilla kick against Youngstown State in a playoff game. Remember, Youngstown State was the number 1 seed in the playoff that year in 1990. Grilla, that was a big upset on the road in the freezing cold against Shaquem Griffin, making an interception against Temple. That's a big play. It's a very nice play for Shaquem. I think people will probably vote for the Shaquem interception, but I think clearly the Grilla kick is a bigger play in UCF history.
I'm going to call it right now. If Grilla gets more than 15% of the vote, I will be shocked. I think this is 80.
Because of the people voting.
It's 85-15. It's recency bias. You know, Shaquem is a legendary UCF player. 1990 for the Grilla kick. Very few people saw that. Very few people even try to find it. Franco Grilla is going down. If he gets 15% or greater, I will be absolutely shocked.
I agree with you. And I think that's going to be the case in a lot of these things. Even the plays from 2005, 2007, great plays that are in these brackets, they're just not going to win because of the people voting on them didn't see them and didn't even probably know what UCF football was back then. And that's kind of a shame. But at least I can bring that. Maybe doing this bracket is bringing those plays attention for a lot of these people maybe that haven't seen them before, and they can get a little more appreciation for the history of UCF football.
The other upset that will absolutely happen is the number 7 seed Jordan Ozerwright's INT to beat the Cows in 2013. That is absolutely going down to Bortles rushing TD against Baylor in the Fiesta Bowl. I think Bortles will win that 7-10 matchup pretty handily. The other one that's interesting.
That's a tough one. I mean, the first time we ever beat the Cows, I know I've told the story how that play means so much to me, the Ozerwright's interception, and I do love the Bortles play. These 7-10 matchups are pretty much toss-ups. They're like the 8-9s. They can go either way in all these brackets.
I would have given, so the year 8-9 here is KZ flying in the end zone versus Memphis and Becton's 4 TDs. I think I would have given Becton a better shot against any other matchup because he is a UCF legend. A lot of people still remember him. Even if you didn't see him play, you know him as a coach. But I think KZ is going to be tough to beat on any of the plays in this tournament. So I think it'd be interesting to see if Becton had drawn a better seed. I think upsets in this bracket, again, I think Shaquem takes Grilla down 14-3. I think Bortles takes Ozerites down in the 10-7. And keep an eye on that 4-13 Joe Burnett punt return TD and Marlon Williams 2-point conversion of the Bearcats. Recency bias perhaps at play there, Mike. Keep an eye on that one too.
Yeah, the Burnett one should win that one. That's a cool play to watch too. He gets spun around. It's in a championship game. It was actually a touchdown. The Marlon Williams one is one of the few plays on here that's not even a touchdown or a turnover, at least. And the Becton one, that's going to have a very tough time beating KZ because, one, I'm not going to be able to find any highlights or any video of those touchdowns. But just remember, not only did he score 4 touchdowns in one game, he scored 4 touchdowns 4 different ways in one game. He ran for one, he threw for one, he caught one, and he returned a punt for one. I don't know if we're ever going to see that. I mean, how many times has that happened in football history, let alone UCF football history?
He's going to lose. All right, let's go on to the next bracket. Let's go to the Memory Mall side of the bracket. Mike, your number 1 seed in this bracket is Shaquan Burkett's pick 6 against Auburn. Your 2 seed is the Hale Perryman, just for context, Mike. A lot of interesting matchups here. I'll go first. I'll give you what I think will be the upsets in this one. So I'll start bottom up. I'll start the looks like you have the 6-11 matchup here is Davin Bush versus his pick 6 versus Alabama in 2000, and then Otis Anderson catching the peace out TD from Darryl Mack. Darryl Mack and Otis will absolutely win that one, hands down. I'm interested in that 7-10 again because it's a KZ, but it's the goalpost against Marshall. I don't think KZ loses anywhere here, so I think KZ wins. And then probably the other one is going to get just recency biased out of here. Your 4-13 matchup, Mike. I love your heads out here. But you've got the 4 seed, Bobby Joe Plain, the first TD in school history, against the 13 seed, Bam Moore's pick 6 plus Joey Connors baptizes Joe Burrow. That's really a 2-for-1 special right there. If Bobby Joe Plain gets more than 10%, I will be shocked. I think that 13 seed runs away with it, Mike. This is probably the lock of the tournament right here, is Bobby Joe Plain going down hard in the first round.
That's tough, man. The first ever touchdown in school history. That is a historic moment.
Actually, hold on. You're right. Less than 10%.
There is only like Zapruder film footage of this touchdown of him flopping through the puddles and the mud against St. Leo's that day. And the Bam Moore play was huge, but it came in a loss. And that's the reason it's all the way down as a 13 seed. If we end up winning that game, that play is much higher on the list. It's going to be tough for Bobby Joe to win that one. I'm pulling for him. I want him to get the respect he deserves. First ever touchdown. That's a big deal. The other things about this bracket, and I've been getting some feedback on the dungeon, people didn't like some of my 1 seeds. This is one of the 1 seeds people have disagreed with. They don't agree that Shaquan Burkett pick 6 against Auburn should be a 1 seed. A lot of people like the Hale Perryman. A lot of people like the J.J. Wharton catch over that one. When I was drawing it up, this play was the biggest play in the biggest game we've ever played in, and that's the reason it got the 1 seed. That was a 7-point game in the 4th quarter, and when he picks that ball off and returns it, the place went bananas. That's when I knew we were going to win that game, even though it still was not over. As we know, Auburn came down to the very end. They were throwing it into the end zone to beat us at the end of that game. So that was the huge, huge play of that game. And as we know, the biggest game in UCF history. That's why it's the 1 seed. And it's over Hale Perryman and the catch because of that.
Yeah, that's the challenge with this is the magnitude of that game. Hale Perryman was a great game. It was against ECU on the road. Obviously, it helps out a ton. But and even the J.J. Wharton play, I mean, it wasn't, we couldn't have lost that game, obviously, but it wasn't like it clinched us something in that day or that that particular catch. So I wouldn't be mad if JJ got there. I don't know if I would go Perriman. I wouldn't be mad if JJ was there over Shaquan Burkett, but I'm also not going to argue it. I do want to argue though, Mike. I don't know what was happening there. KZ's flipped to AK for the touchdown in 2017 against the Cows as a 9 seed. I mean, did they have a rough regular season? How did they only get a 9 seed? That's one of my favorite plays of all time.
I love that play too. The only thing is, I'm trying to be equal about it. That's like the third or fourth best play from that game. Because in that game, you're talking about the strip that Richie Grant forces Wilcox on the fumble at the end. You've got obviously the Mike Hughes touchdown, and there's another one I think in that game that I'm blanking on right now too. So that's at least the third best play in that game. Even though it was a very cool play to watch, I love that one too. The option, KZ ran it perfectly and flipped to Killins for the touchdown. It's just, when I did the seedings, I started off the ones and twos, the top 8 players to me came easy, and then I kind of started working backwards too, the 16 seeds and the 15 seeds, and I kind of made my way into the middle, and I don't know, it just worked out that KZ flip turned into a number 9 seed.
We need to talk to the committee in that one. All right, let's move over to the next bracket, the Bounce House bracket. For your knowledge, the 1 seed out of here, Mike, is Bortles to Godfrey for the go-ahead TD against Louisville in 2013. And the 2 seed, Mike, I'm surprised you're not catching more flack for this. The 2 seed in this bracket is Hinshaw's helmet TD, where he catches it and his helmet pops off. That was against Alabama in 2000, Mike. So why don't you take this one, run through? You got any upset specials here? Anything you're concerned about?
This bracket, I believe, I released a few games from this bracket today on the first day. The very first one I released today, was that the one from this bracket? I'm trying to look at it quickly now. Well, the one I just released right before this show started was the Richie Grant forces the fumble on the Cows against Bortles to Wharton against Penn State. That's another play where you go back and look at it. Maybe you haven't seen that catch in a few years. JJ made a bunch of beautiful catches that season. This one, I mean, the way he gets his toes into the back of the corner of the end zone, you hear it on the call. It's third down. He doesn't make that play. We got to settle for a field goal. Who knows how the rest of that game shapes up? That's a huge play. I love that matchup. No, that wasn't the one I put on today.
You had the Rennell Hall.
The 7-10.
Yeah.
Yes, the 7-10. That one, and it's getting very close voting. That was the first one I posted today. Rennell Hall's second touchdown against Baylor, against Storm Johnson's touchdown run against Louisville. Right now, Storm Johnson, I believe, is in the lead, but it's very close. Both beautiful plays, blocking downfield on both of them. The way Storm cuts it back, and that really sparked the comeback in Louisville that night, was that play and the fumble that we recovered. And then the Rennell Hall, the second touchdown. And that game, remember, was still back and forth early in that game. We didn't really get a comfortable lead till later in that game. Just a huge, huge plays in UCF history. That's a tough one. I've been going back and forth in that one in my head all day.
Well, here's what I got. So you've got the 6-11 matchup, Bortles to Perryman against the Cows in 2013 versus DJ Mack's 6 touchdowns against Memphis. I think the 11 seed DJ Mack, I think he pulls that off. I think that game was a big magnitude game. I think the 2013 Cows game, while our first time beating the Cows, I think DJ will win that one on recency bias. I'm concerned about that 215, Mike, the Hinshaw helmet TD versus the penalty to start the game against Cincinnati in the game day. I'm looking like 51-49 squeaker there. I would not be surprised if the game day thing doesn't take it, again, based off magnitude. You've got 2 Storm Johnsons. He's the 10 seed and he's the 8 seed. That doesn't happen very often. The other play from the Cows game that you have, again, another 9 seed. I don't know what you have against the Cows game in 2017, 9 seeds. You've got the Otis Anderson screen pass TD, another 9 seed. And I know your philosophy seemed to be too many plays from one game. I got to think that Otis will run away with that one and the 8-9 matchup over Storm, largely because Storm's already in this one as well. Everything else looks pretty status quo here, I think. Watch out for a Cincinnati game day penalty. I think DJ Mack upsets that 6-11, and I think Otis takes the 9-8.
8-9 matchups can go either way. Again, that was the fourth play I was thinking of from that game, was the Otis screen pass. A very nice play, and I understand the circumstances of the game at the time, but if you just look at the play, eyeball test it, the Storm Johnson touchdown run is another one from that Penn State game. Go back and watch the replay. He's tiptoeing the sideline for like 20, 30 yards down there at the end and dives, contorts his body to sneak inside the pylon. It's a great run too, man. Some of these plays I haven't seen in a little while, and going back, and just amazing plays. And that was
the whole fun of making this thing for me.
And then the last bracket is the Water Tower bracket. The number 1 seed, Javier Borleghi, with the kick versus Alabama in 2000. Your 2 seed is the J.J. Wharton catch versus Temple in 2013. Mike, I saw you getting some grief from some people for having Borleghi as a 1 seed. Would you like to defend the selection committee putting Borleghi as a 1 seed?
That really needs no defense. The Borleghi kick against Alabama is a for sure 1 seed in UCF history. We just did a 20-year anniversary show featuring Javier Borleghi and the rest of the guys from that game not long ago. That win, we waited so long for that win as UCF fans. The people that are arguing against it probably started watching UCF football in the 2000s and don't remember that game. And I know the game wasn't live on TV in Orlando, so maybe people didn't experience it the same way as they experienced some of these other games. But just how many games did we blow before that game? How many games did we let slip away? We were just waiting for that signature win, and that was our signature win for a long time until probably, you want to say the Liberty Bowl in 2010, finally beating Georgia for our first bowl win, or probably all the way up until Louisville 13 years later. That was the biggest game. The kick, it's not an easy kick. It's not like it was a chip shot kick. And on the road against Alabama, and that win we've still been able to use in our arsenal now for the last few years, especially in 2017 with the whole national championship claim against Alabama. We have that on them. We're 1-0 against them. They've never beat us because of that kick. That kick, to me, for sure is a 1. If you want to argue that Wharton can be a 1-2, I can see it, but I don't think it's going to be because you're taking the kick off. I don't know which 1 seed you take off, because to me, the Godfrey to the Bortles to Godfrey is definitely a 1. This is a 1. The Mike Hughes for sure is a 1, and I already explained the Jaquan Burkhead. So I think I nailed the 1 seeds. The other 2 seeds, the 4 2 seeds are very good plays too, man. So I guess it's up to interpretation.
All right, here's my bracket breakdown here. You have the 8-9. 8 is the blocked field goal against Cincinnati. 9 is Joe Burnett INT for the division title in 2005 against Rice. I forgot there was a blocked TD in the Cincinnati game, so I hope Joe Burnett wins that one on the 9-8 matchup. 5-12. 5 is the noise penalty versus Troy. 12 is the Bam Moore forced fumble versus Navy. Again, I think recency bias is a factor here, but I will say people are oddly proud of that noise penalty game. Even though people who weren't there, you still see that pop up from time to time on Twitter. You still see people with the, whatever handkerchiefs or whatever giveaway there was there. I think the noise penalty can give Bam a little bit of run for his money, but I think Bam will win on recency bias. 7-10, Standback's forced fumble versus Memphis in 13 versus Dante running over Nebraska in 97. Only 2 Dante plays the entire tournament. Like, obviously he had an illustrious career, but then as you sit and think about what were his signature plays, I guess it is more challenging to think on what those were. I think he wins that 10-7 just because it's Dante and it's over Nebraska. I think he'll win that recency bias there as well. And I think those are really your only upsets, I think, in this bracket. I think everyone else will fall status quo.
Yeah, I could see that. The one play that drops all the way down to a 14 seed, but if you go back and watch that play on its own, if we would have somehow finished off that comeback, the one against the Cows in 2008, we were down 2 touchdowns late, and then Greco hits Rocky Ross, and when he ties that game, the stadium was about half full at that time because everybody had left. But the people that were there, person for person, maybe the loudest that stadium has been. That place was going crazy. If we could remember, we lost that game on a 4th and 1 in overtime. After they had scored, they stopped us. But man, that comeback, that play would be epic if somehow we would have pulled off that win. But it drops all the way down to 14, and it's got a tough draw against Brandon Alexander, the forcing the fumble at Houston on the goal line. I think that one is going to win. But overall, very tough bracket. I could see J.J. Wharton coming out of this bracket because of the recency bias. Again, people that just started watching football in the mid-2000s will pick that probably over the Javier Borleghi kick, which to me is blasphemous.
Yeah, do you want to go through quickly and give your Final Four? Do you have your Final Four already decided?
Well, I made the seeds, so I think my Final Four would be the top all 4 1 seeds. But how I think people are going to vote on it, that's a different question. I think people for sure are going to pick the Mike Hughes. I think I could see people going with J.J. Wharton.
I could see even some people taking Hale Perryman over Jaquan Burkett, and Bortles and Godfrey should win their bracket over the Hinshaw. And who's the 3 seed? I don't even know if there's another 24K. No, I think Bortles and Godfrey easily wins the bounce house bracket, unless maybe a real shocker emerges, like Richie Grant forcing the fumble against Wilcox. But that should be the clear winner in that one. And then a couple of the other ones are up for grabs.
Yeah, my Final Four. Give me Mike Hughes in the Reflecting Pond. Give me Hale Perryman in the Memory Mall. I'm going to go off the board here, Mike. Give me 24K in the Bounce House, the 3 seed. And then give me J.J. Wharton in the Water Tower. That's my Final Four. Where can people vote, Mike? Give everyone the details. What's the contest? How are you voting? When's it happening? Fill us all in on the particulars.
Voting's going on now. I plan on releasing 4 matchups per day. I released 4 today. You can go on Twitter. I haven't figured out how to do it on Facebook, so I'm sorry to the Facebook people. Are you able to do polls on Facebook? Because I tried this morning quickly. I couldn't figure it out. And I also posted in the dungeon. So if you follow us on there, I've been posting some of these videos on YouTube. You can watch the replays of these things. And on Twitter, I'll post a link of the YouTube videos I'm creating. And also, if I don't create one, then just the original videos that are out there for some of these plays. So it's cool to reminisce on some of these things. I've had a great time doing it so far. So get out there, vote, and we will come to the conclusion of the greatest play in UCF history. I think most people have already decided that it's the Mike Hughes, and it's tough to debate that. But going through all these other plays is just as much fun anyway.
All right, well, again, UCF Mike 1 on Twitter is where you can find some of these polls. We'll retweet them from the Suns account. We'll probably cover them on the Sons of UCF live show, I'm sure, from time to time. Obviously, as the more and more of the the games are played, we'll move on to future rounds and see what the matchups look like. So hang in there with us. Again, check some of these plays out, and let's figure out who we all think has the best play in UCF history. Coming up is someone who probably didn't have a best play anywhere ever, and that's Cow of the Week. Don't move.
I'm Jeff Allen. Join me each week for unique yet common sense opinions on sports on the Jeff Allen Sports Talk Podcast. We will break down the sports world minus the hot takes with prominent guests and my stable of sports guys. It's sports conversation the way it should be. Search Jeff Allen Sports Talk wherever you get your podcasts or go to jeffallensportstalk.com.
There are cows among us. Adam and Mike will tell you who.
All right, new sounder, Mike. You will hear it when the show comes live. New sounder. Hey, so Cow of the Week's here, and this is when we tell you about something that we think is not very good. It's cow-worthy because, of course, why wouldn't it be? So, Mike, I will let you lead off. What has kind of caught your eye this week for Cow of the Week?
Something that I think we're taking a little bit too far now. And it's the sponsorships. I understand teams have to find a way to make money. Yeah, I can see you putting names on a locker room. I can see you putting names on a stadium. Some teams have gone over the line now, and that is the Michigan State Spartans, now known as the Michigan State Spartans, brought to you or sponsored by or presented by Rocket Mortgage. And are we expected to say this every single time we reference this team now? So Tom Izzo's basketball team, the Spartans presented by Rocket Mortgage, have a 3-point lead over Michigan, and there's 3 minutes to go. And every single time we say their name now, we have to say presented by Rocket Mortgage. I think it's finally crossed the line, man. It's too much. It's way too much. You want to put an advertisement on your uniform. I never liked that either. I know soccer has done it forever. I know baseball has always tried to fight their way against it, but it's slowly working its way now into every sport. But to have to say it every single time is ridiculous. Or are they genius? Maybe it's something that we should start doing. So from now on, I want you to call me UCF Mike, presented by Pornhub. Every single time you say Mike,
yeah.
you got to say, okay,
The UCF football brackets are brought to you now by UCF Mike, presented by Pornhub.
I'm not familiar with that. Is that a website? What is that?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Should I Google it maybe?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
You're not at work right now, right?
No. I think it was interesting. Yeah, it's obviously to your point, it's either a genius idea or it's a further watering down of certain things that we see, because you're now basically selling the name of the team, right? I mean, it's one thing to be a Nike sponsorship, and your arena sponsored by Pepsi, and the car dealership sponsors the coaches show, but now you're literally sponsoring the kids who get zero revenue as of right now for anything that they do, but they're literally the team that's being sponsored, and it's literally that's the whole reason people are sponsoring, is the kids who are playing on the floor, and now they literally get nothing out of the deal. So it's getting further and further away from, I think, what it wants to be. I'm all for creative revenue streams, and I get in 2021 with COVID stuff, you've got to do some things outside the box, but that just feels a little bit wrong. I mean, what stops the team from just changing their nickname then? You know what I mean? Why not just become the Michigan State, Rocket Mortgages? You know what I mean? Like, just sell off your nickname. Who cares, right? Just your basketball team only will be known as the Michigan State Rocket Mortgages. What prevents that from happening at some point? It opens up a Pandora's box. I get why you want to make some money and it's creative, but it just feels like the wrong thing to do.
Yeah, that's going to happen.
Oh, yeah,
Obviously,
sure.
we're seeing the first step just now. But yeah, soon the nicknames are going to be completely gone, and it will just be Pepsi versus Coke. And the University of Central Florida, I don't know.
Waffle Houses versus
Samsung.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, it's gonna be nuts. So I don't know. Find other ways to make money.
Well, Mike, here's my cow of the week, and I'm sure there's a good reason for it. I didn't really look it up. Maybe someone out there knows. But I was obviously the tournament is here. UCF's not in it, so that's a bit of a bummer. It's been a bit of a weird season. I haven't really followed college basketball as closely as I normally would, so I don't. I'm in a bracket challenge with our good buddy Ben Stout, and I don't really know who to pick because I haven't really watched a ton of hoops this year, so I'm trying to figure all that out. And as I'm looking through this stuff, Mike, I realized the NCAA did something. They took away the Thursday games. It used to be Thursday, Friday, first round, Saturday, Sunday, second round. Now it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. They took away my free day. I got 2 free days of work days of wall-to-wall basketball. I loved my opening Thursday. I traditionally would take off work that day, and I'd spend the entire day at home in front of my TV, watching the games, watching the matchups, all day Thursday and all day Friday, and then turn around the weekend, do it all over again. And turns out the first 4 is on Thursday now. It used to be on Tuesday, and now that the actual weekend games aren't on until Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and even the next rounds are all jacked up again. It used to be Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Now they're not that. I'm sure there's COVID reasons for it. I'm sure there's protocols and quarantines and all that good stuff, Mike. But they took away my Thursdays. That you can't have the NCAA tournament without it being opening round Thursday with wall-to-wall games from noon until 1 in the morning, and that's been taken from me. Sure, it's there Friday, but I want my Thursday back, damn it. So NCAA, you're cow of the week for taking my Thursday.
Yeah, they've been trying to push these play-in games on us for the longest time now. I never watched those stupid play-in games. We never were involved in one. There's always some crap 16 seeds that I don't care about. Keep those on Tuesdays. You put them on the True TV, and whoever wants to watch them. But the real tournament starts on Thursday at noon. That's tradition. That's the way it should be. That's the way it's always been. You can't screw that up. You got to have that Thursday. You're watching the games on your phone at work. You're sneaking out to lunch. You're taking that extra hour or whatever, and you're hanging out watching those games. That's the best. That's the best part. The best part of this tournament is the beginning of the tournament. It's not the Final Four, and it's not the Sweet 16. It is Thursday and Friday opening weekend. And now they're shortening that by a day. That sucks.
Well, then the second round. So that's the first opening weekend, right? Then the Sweet 16, Mike, and the Elite 8 is Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So the Elite 8 will be played on Tuesday, March 30th. Again, that was typically that very next weekend. And the Final Four is pretty much a week after that on Saturday, and then the championship game still on Monday. Still at 9 o'clock at night, by the way, which if we're going to change anything, can we maybe change the start time to something a little bit more reasonable? But now my Elite Eight's on a Tuesday. My opening games aren't until Friday. This whole schedule thing. And again, I get there's probably reasons for it, but I mean, good Lord, NCAA. That was like that's your staple. That's your... that's what people are just know you for, right? That's your tradition. That's the one thing you have is everyone waits for that Thursday and you hear that dun 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 dun, like, and you're just ready to go and you have no idea what channel True TV is on your cable system. You're trying to figure all that stuff out. That's tradition, and they robbed that from me, Mike. I'm mad. I'm mad. Really mad.
That's an even dumber thing. The Elite Eight on a Tuesday instead of a Sunday. I mean, that's a great weekend too. You get Sunday usually a 2 o'clock game and a 5 o'clock game.
Yeah, yep.
And let's go, man. That's prime time. I don't know what the hell they're thinking. Put it on Tuesday. I guarantee you the ratings drop big time this year. And I don't want to hear that it's because Duke's not in it and because Kentucky's not in it. It's because you've chosen to put these games on at bad times. And I mean, COVID is COVID. COVID doesn't only exist on the weekends. It's there every day.
Breaking news, this just in.
What is the point of changing the schedule around? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I don't know what they're doing with this thing. They're ruining the college basketball tournament.
The only thing I can think of, Mike, is they were afraid to go up against the vaunted Sons of UCF live show, which you can find on the internet every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. That's me, that's you, that's Trace Troco, and we'll be on again this Thursday night. So maybe they were avoiding us there, but you shouldn't avoid us. Make sure you find that show. Check it out. It's a lot of fun. I have no idea what we have in store for you this week on the show, but I'm sure we'll figure it out by the time Thursday rolls around. Again, if you haven't already done so, make sure you subscribe to this particular podcast, as that's available wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe to that YouTube channel while you're there too. Ratings never hurt anybody, so if you want to give us a couple of those, much appreciated. We are just in the beginning stages of spring ball. The next couple of weeks, Mike and I will talk through maybe battles we're looking for, positions we want to see, and we'll see if we get more and more sound bites out of spring ball. So we will have you covered wall to wall up until the spring game itself, right here on the Sons of UCF. So make sure you tune in each and every week here and on the live show as well. Everybody have a fantastic week. We'll talk to everybody Thursday, and everybody be safe out there. Go Knights.
Charge on.